All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Excess Succeed. This is Gearface. I am joined with an incredible degree of spontaneity by D. D, thank you so much for being here.
Hey, my pleasure. Thanks for having me, and thanks for accepting when I sprung this on you.
Of course, yeah. I hopped into a room where a bunch of folks were playing Exceed and watching D play, and he mentioned, "Hey, I could do an Exceed lesson tonight." And I looked at the clock and looked at the rest of the things I had to do tonight, and I was like, "Eh, we could probably make that work." So we're gonna talk a little bit about Zangief today. I'm extremely excited to learn a little bit about Zangief, a character that has been making the rounds in the Excess Succeed roster. He's been passed back and forth between a couple different experts over time. And D, we were talking ahead of time about this in the pre-call that D has drawn the short straw for Zangief. So
Yeah, let's
D,
let's
thank
be let's be perfectly clear. If you played against Zangief, you can understand why nobody wants to get close to Zangief.
yeah, that's fair, right? And so yeah, what you're saying is everybody else crossed out
Yeah,
uh, of
yeah, they're
the of
keeping
the
they're keeping range.
I
Like,
got you. That makes a lot of sense, honestly. So, if you hear any audio problems on this lesson, folks, it's because we're both standing at range 8 from Zangief and like yelling into our microphones. So we'll do our best with what we got. Um,
mhm.
Couple of quick disclaimers before we get started, as always. Number one, you should play Exceed for fun. We're going to be talking about playing Exceed to win on this show, and those two things sometimes line up, they sometimes don't. If the lines of play that we're describing on this show don't sound fun to you, don't play that way. Um, Play the way you do find fun. You'll have more fun, obviously, but you'll also probably play longer. You'll probably learn more in the long run. So, if what we're talking about doesn't sound fun, just don't play that way. Uh, Disclaimer number two is we don't know everything. Exceed is not a solved game. I don't know anything. D knows quite a bit. But Zangief's not a solved character. Exceed's not a solved game. If the lines of play that we're talking about don't line up with your lines of play with Zangief, that doesn't mean that we're right and you're wrong. I encourage you to find your own lines and tell us why we're wrong, so I can get those engagement numbers up. Um,
And so
but
we
yeah,
can learn stuff. Yeah, I,
I,
I
I
have
guess
a
I guess also so we can learn stuff. But really, I mean, we're all in Exceed for the money, right, and for the fame
true.
it brings us. Um,
Yes,
yeah, 100%.
no
But
other
yeah,
no other reason.
uh, please do take everything that we're saying with a grain of salt, especially whenever we say any sort of always do this, never do that. Usually, not always, but usually there's some amount of nuance to that. Do you like to say that? What is it?
Generalization is always wrong.
Yes, yeah, exactly. But yeah, let's get into it. D, please tell me a little bit about our large friend Zangief here.
A couple notes first. I want to, as a special shout out, I saw some great discussion on a previous lesson that I did where folks noted that kind of the central strategy didn't align with how I described some of the pieces of it. I really appreciate that. Please let us know. Be observant, um, because in any gaps, if they're there for a reason, and I'd love to discuss them with you, or they're not, and then I'd love to have those corrected. So, my gratitude to those who have been discussing.
Yeah,
Secondly,
absolutely.
uh, Zinke's facing away from the opponent, so I'm gonna fix that.
Oh,
That's not
gotcha.
my
Sure,
bad.
sure, sure.
Yeah, so we'll as usual we'll go from your left to your right, but Zangief needs to be facing toward the opponent.
Makes a lot of sense.
That's just obviously correct. All right. So I am not much of a Street Fighter player. I've played some Street Fighter games, but not very seriously. Just like at a local arcade. I've got a whole story about my first fighting game experience that I took at all seriously, being Super Street Fighter 4, and many stories related to that. A very good friend of mine, Ming Zangief, in any game that he can play Zangief, he loves him. I have played a decent amount against Zangief, and another good friend of mine was doing tournament practice against Zangief, and so I got to play, I think, about 50 games of as Zangief in about 4 days.
Oh,
Um, and that was the most Zangief uh, I have played before or since. I kind of put the character down. I'm like, all right, I played all the Zangief. I'm done. I finished playing him. Um, until relatively recently. Though I will still use him sometimes for the Zangief test, which is used in custom character design, but that's a whole other conversation.
sure. And
Uh,
and honestly, I mean, I think I know where you're going with the Zangief test, and I'm sure some of the principles around it are going to come up during this lesson. I think that there is some strategic component that we can probably lean into from that that idea of the Zangief test. What you're talking about, I think, is that if you can beat Zangief at range 1, probably your character has a problem. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. One of the characters I worked on in season 5, Blaze Blue, Carl Clover, and Nirvana, was consistently overwhelming Zangief stats at range 1 at a certain point in playtesting. Uh, so they got nerfed because nobody should be doing that.
Right. So it's probably a little bit of an overstatement to say that like that's not allowed, right? It's not in the rule book of Exceed that says that Zangief cannot be beaten at range 1, but it almost might as well be. It sounds
Yeah,
like
it's
like
baked into
Zangief
the
is the
character
range
identity.
1 character.
Yeah. Like if I just look at some of my favorite fighting game grapplers and go, okay, let's look at this trio. The I don't know, 3 Egyptian god grapplers.
Yeah.
And I line them up. I go, okay. If you're in his reach, you're dead. You are in his reach. You
Right.
cannot escape Vigor.
Right.
And he's simply indestructible. You can't kill him.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, I believe it's game over when you're in his grasp is actually Potemkin's tagline in Strive, if I remember correctly. But like the idea being Zangief is an overwhelming, dominant, close range threat, and it has always been baked into the character's identity in Source and in Exceed.
Right. Okay.
So to demonstrate that, let's just look at our printed ranges real quick. 2 to 3, 1, 1, 1, 1 to 2, 1, 1.
Right.
You might have a reasonable guess about what our favorite range is.
I feel like probably like 5 or 6 based on
Okay.
just these cards.
Oh, hold on. You're thinking of a different lesson. That's Zangief. This is Zangief.
And I'm ending the
perhaps
call now. No, a completely different Geef. We'll have to have another lesson about Zangief some other time.
The Legend of Zangief will live another day. If you're unsure about your favorite range after all that, please read the character card. We're actually going to start here, which we usually don't.
The opponent is at range 1. That like end of text. If the opponent is at range 1, that already tells me a lot. When you set your attack, which means that this works on offense or defense, and we have Swift, the Ryu boost, on every attack we throw at range 1.
If your attack is critical. So this does cost a gauge to use.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, so those aren't familiar with the Street Fighter mechanic. They all have the ability to make their attacks critical. It's a little icon, denoted by an icon on the character card that has a little kanji for fire, I believe, and a 1 gauge icon. What that icon means is when you set your attack, you can spend a gauge to make your attack critical. And if so, you get its critical triggers. Just for a quick example, this says critical stun immunity. So if this attack is critical because you spent a gauge when you set it, it has stun immunity. Otherwise, you may notice it has 0 armor and 0 guard. So probably not doing too hot.
It's extremely it has stun vulnerability at that point.
Yeah, just so very unsafe. So Zangief's ability says that all right, as long as we started the strike at range 1, regardless of what happens after that, I can spend a gauge to get critical +1 power, +1 speed.
Right.
Which is it might surprise you how overwhelming those stats can be. So to paraphrase, actually, I think I might be quoting my friend Blue. Power is the threat that speed delivers. You want both of them. It's easy to get tunnel vision on one. I'm particularly notable for overvaluing speed. I love going faster than my opponent because it lets me do my thing. And okay, so they kill me afterwards. That's fine. I got to do my thing, and I'm satisfied.
You got to do your thing, and that's valuable in its own right.
Yeah, but in reality, both is much like stronger than the sum of its parts. Well, that's portress words.
So if you could simultaneously confirm and confirm your threat and increase your threat, you would, and you can. It turns out with Zangief.
Yeah. So let's look at the 2 most notable and drastic examples. Range 1, speed 8, power 4. The power 4 doesn't really do much. There are not that many things with 3 guard. They do exist, but usually things will have 4 more guard if they have guard. But speed 8 is notable because now you're faster than any normal.
Sure.
Your opponent might have an EX grasp. Okay, so might you, at which case you're speed 9. Like, it means you just can be faster than them. If they want it to be fast, you're faster. Speed 3, power 7 means your sweep murders their sweep.
Right.
and that
And
is a
and and
notable
when you
interaction.
beat sweep cleanly by damage, you're taking 0 and dealing 7, which is a like Exceed is not built around exchanges that big on on cards that don't have costs on them.
Right. Yeah, one of the principles of Exceed's core dynamic of you got your fast, your mid speeds, and your slows is that fast cards win cleanly by a little. Slow cards win by trading up. So
Right.
generally, a sweep expects to take some damage and then hit back harder for more value, and it's happy to do that. So a sweep that says, "Actually, I'm just going to murder you. You will be stunned. You cannot hit back,"
Right.
uh, is nightmarish. There's a different character that actually has a special that's speed 3 with 7 power, but that's another story for another lesson. All right, so here are some. You're already pretty scary. You will need gauge to be this scary, and you will be spending gauge to do it. One of my premises of Zangief play is uh, that this ability you will use when necessary, and only when necessary. Because as much time as I'm spending on it, as much as I'm hyping it, as good as it is, this ability is quite anemic compared to this ability.
Yeah, that's a higher number, D. That
Yes.
3 in the red text, that's higher than the 1 in the red text from the other side of the card.
Yep. Another thing that we like to talk about in Exceed design chats is how different each number is, right? So 1 is significant, 2 is big, 3 is really big.
3 is a lot 3 is a lot more than 1 more than 2.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, like one is more than 0, 2 is more than 1, and 3 is much more than 2.
Than 2, yeah.
And to be clear, the reason for that is because basically of how stats work with breakpoints, the speed curve, and the normal boosts.
Right.
I'm not going to that down in great detail because you're Zangief. You actually mostly don't need to worry about that. Um,
Right.
you are mostly going to be playing at range 1, and your speed curve is not really a speed curve, it's a mix-up. Um, Fundamental to the identity of grapplers in most games, and this is no exception, is that they are mix-up reliant. A grappler says, I'm going to play 3 mix-ups, and if I lose 2 and win 1, we probably broke even.
Okay.
Or I'm winning, depending.
Right.
So this says, I can throw a mix-up where my fast wins by 6 or loses by approximately 0, if I run into like a focus, for example. My slows win by 9 or
9.
so.
Right.
If they take any, or if they don't take damage, they might just trade and then deal a regular like 6 damage instead of 3. You're getting more than 1 strike worth of value off of this power. Generally, you are basically saying, I will, as long as I confirm this, I'm going to hit you with an extra strike worth of value on top of it, which means you get it to happen once, and now you're winning 2 strikes at once.
Right. And I mean, that's the idea of the safe side of your mix-up, the side that is very consistent and easy to land, dealing 6, is threatening.
Yeah,
That's
that's your low reward option.
right. Right. And in many cases, I mean, so the things that throwing mix-ups is one thing. The things that grasp normally beats are unguarded things that are fast but not as fast as grasp, right? Cross assault, dive at range 1 if they're trying to get out of the corner or something. It isn't supposed to beat the 4 guard, the 5 guard options, but Zangief's grasp just does.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. And we'll go through every card and explain why they're all amazing. But I wanted to start with these 2 normals as kind of the pinnacle of your existence. Of you can make a sweep to destroy all other sweeps. You can make the king of all grasps. You should be quite pleased by this.
So
Uh,
I mentioned a second ago when we were going over his character card that this is something that works on offense or defense, right?
yeah.
Because it says when you set your attack. Now that you're talking about this, it sounds like in practice this works on offense because who is striking into you on defense? Who is striking into you such that you can attack on defense with this ability?
That is very, very often the case. People will strike into you at range 1 when you have gauge because they have no choice.
Okay.
They will say, oh, if I let Zangief initiate, there is no mix-up, I just die. I have to initiate. They will do things like say, oh, I need to play an EX on offense right here so that maybe he thinks it's my EX grasp and he won't play his speed 8 grasp, or it's EX cross and he will play it, but it was actually my grasp, or something like that. They'll do it when they have to.
And when they do that, they're calling out it probably one option, right? Like you don't have the ability to initiate into Zangief at range 1 and play for coverage, right?
Yeah.
Like he'll
There
kill
is
you
no
if
safe
you
play.
do that.
There is no safe play.
Yeah.
You go, okay, how do I play safely and conservatively? And you go, all right, well, I'll play a focus. I'm sorry, your focus gets done by the sweep.
Yeah.
You want to play an EX cross? It gets done by my grasp.
Right.
Right. You want to play, EX focus? I'm sorry, 9 defense? That's not enough. I have an ignore armor and guard special. We'll come to that.
Right.
You do not have safe options, and you
Okay.
never will. Not at range 1.
Okay. So if I'm playing Zangief and my opponent is striking into me, at first I need to check to make sure that they're things are going okay for them.
Yeah.
And once I've determined that was a real thing that they meant to do, I have to assume that they're doing it for a really specific reason. And it's probably either to call out a specific card or because they have been 100% forced to do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Things where they go, okay, if I don't initiate, then I will be unable to do anything.
Right.
And that is a not uncommon situation. Though there are a few things that people will generally keep as their backup things. But we'll talk about each of your tools and how they answer them. As I said, your mix-ups are horrifying. They're not across the board, I win everything, but it is, especially once you get here, I will occasionally decide to confirm safe value and thereby win approximately 2 strikes at once.
Right.
Or I will throw a mix-up, and if I win the mix-up, my opponent dies.
Right.
Because
yeah, I win 2
9.
games at once.
Yeah. You're typically chucking 7+ damage, and it's not very hard to hit.
Right.
Like you in some sense, you've got a lot of ultras, and you're very good at hitting all of them because you're spending 1 gauge very often.
That's a fair way to think about that. I mean, a 168 is definitely an ultra. So is a 13936.
Yep. At least.
Really quick, before we go into the kit itself, I have a couple of questions about this ability. One is I heard you say for this in particular, Exceed Mode Zangief, you said when you get this. And that leads me to ask 2 questions. The first is I assume that means that we're gunning for it and that this is where we should be putting our gauge.
Yes.
Okay. And the second is it wasn't if as in if we manage to.
No.
Can I be pretty sure that I'm going to get this over the course of the game?
Yes.
Okay, that's terrifying.
So central to my Zangief gameplay, and something that I know is not true of every Zangief player, so please be aware, there are other playstyles out there. When I first started kind of learning Zangief and playing around with him ages ago, especially because my noted friend I mentioned earlier was, I was like, okay, there, like with a lot of characters, there are probably lots of ways I can play this character, and of course there are lots of subtleties, that still is true. But I decided broadly I was going to think of it like either I'm going to play pretty high tempo, which is to say I'm going to use resources as they come. I'm going to be in my opponent's face a lot, striking a lot, playing pretty aggressively. Or I'm going to save up and exceed and try to kill them with 1 or 2 hits. Or I'm going to throw out an ultra. Like that's kind of the default for most characters, right? As you go, I have this way to spin gauge, exceeding to spin gauge, and ultras to spin gauge. So probably I'm going to be leaning one of those directions. And as a Street Fighter character, it really didn't seem all that unusual to look at it that way. As like, oh, well, in any given game, maybe I'll go more this way or that way. After repeated trials with Zangief, I have determined, which again, generalization is always wrong. But no, you don't play your ultras. Don't even consider it. You also should, again, only use your frontside ability when necessary. It sometimes is. Sometimes you'll need to shut down somebody's life and ruin their day. But just get to your Exceed mode and then win the game after that. And you will do it. You have the tools to ensure it.
Okay.
It is a rare and canny opponent that can do anything to even mitigate it.
Okay. So there's an amount of inevitability to what Zangief is trying to do. And getting to this is not only feasible, but kind of the expectation if I'm playing him correctly.
Yes.
I guess the other question that I had, so in order to be Zangief, to be like capital Z, all caps Zangief, I need this, and I also need at least something down here. right? And
Yeah.
now my opponent, everything that we just said, they can't fight me at range 1. It's almost a law of Exceed or close to it that they can't fight me at range 1. If I'm this Zangief and I don't have gauge, I'm still a range 1 specialist. And
Mhm.
I'm assuming that like if I'm up against Jacko or somebody who is uncomfortable at range 1, they probably still shouldn't fight me at range 1, but I'm not Zangief then. Is that correct?
Yeah, like you are. Um, I don't know how best. Well, the way I'll describe it is quite simply. So if I don't know if you were actually watching when I played Zangief earlier. I don't think you were.
I was not.
All right. So there's something that I do whenever I play Zangief in tabletop simulator specifically. This is really hard to do in real life. I have found, which is that as range decreases,
Right.
Zangief gets bigger. Um, because this is and as I build gauge, Zangief gets bigger. And if I'm at range 1 with 4 gauge, I exceed, and I have a gauge and I'm still at range 1, then Zangief is a problem. Um, and that's a pretty good indicator of like you're just playing an exceed character. He's not a bad exceed character. You can play him just fine. But the closer you get to your most threatening states, the closer you are to playing the monster who consumes half the table. Um, like there is gameplay in front side because you are playing Exceed. Your goal is not to play Exceed. Your goal is to play Zangief.
Play Zangief. Okay, sure, that makes sense. All right, so at baseline, I'm a scary range 1 character because I have a large number of range 1 tools that do things at range 1. Many characters just kind of don't have that. But I'm not Zangief until I've at least got this. Ideally, until I've at least got this. And then everything we said before, the game is kind of over if you're at range 1. My opponent's
Yeah,
counterplay at that point is to not be there.
yeah. At that point, you have been crowned the king. You are in charge of deciding which mountain you wish to uproot and hurl at your opponent.
Okay,
Um,
sounds good.
like the playing Zangief is in a lot of ways a power fantasy. I don't find him to be a particularly technical character. This is part of what we were talking about before when it was like, oh, who's gonna have to do the Zangief lesson?
Right.
How are we gonna stretch that out to 2 hours? Right? I guess it doesn't have to be, but it's like because I don't think of Zangief play as being particularly technical or being particularly complicated. Right? The core of it is in running the mix up. Actually, that's not quite true. The core of it for me is in running the resource management part of it,
Right.
which is for many characters in Exceed, really challenging, really interesting. I think Zangief is really straightforward because he just has the tools that he needs to do what he's going to do. And then a lot of the stuff beyond that uh, plays out fairly linearly, at least in the lines that I run.
Okay. Sure. Yeah, and
But
I
yes,
mean, and the thing that you said about the power fantasy, the other thing that you mentioned before the lesson started is that like Zangief is fun. It
yeah,
is fun to do the things that Zangief
Zangief
is
is
going to
awesome,
do.
right? If you want to be this hulking, I want to say Russian
Yep.
wrestler who can pick up a a bear uh, art and like beat it down, win that fight, and proceed to punch through a brick wall, which I don't think is in these art, but I assume he's done. Like, how
Oh
could
yeah.
he not have? Like, if you want to be that awesome dude, who I'm told also has a lovely personality, by the way. I don't know
Yeah.
him as a
Yeah. He's a
character.
great guy.
Yeah, like, great. Zangief's for you.
Okay.
Like he absolutely is this awesome, glorious beast of a range 1 monster. Um, and you will. He is not as indestructible as certain other grapplers. Um, but he is about as unstoppable as any of them. He has that inevitability of, yeah, you'll hit me all day, but when I have when I have fulfilled my goals, I will be here, and you will be here, and you will die.
Okay.
Um,
Now that makes sense to me. All right, sure. So I mean that's the fantasy. It doesn't have to be a fantasy, right? We can get this. This is
yeah,
a very achievable thing to do as Zangief. Shall we talk about the kit?
yeah. So let's just start with. Well, I want to talk about why he's good at range 1 without his ability. Um, so because as you mentioned, like who are we playing if we don't have gauge?
Yeah.
Let's start with the character that you are on turn 1. Well, turn 0 actually. On turn 1, you should be a different character. Well, okay. Where do you think I should start? How we get here, or where we are?
Let's do how we get there first.
All right, cool. Um, this is a boost.
Yes.
Play it. There's no attack on this card.
I've actually prior. So when we were playing the short straw game with Zangief about who was going to play it, our mutual friend Blue mentioned that the entirety of the written Zangief guide could be boost key charge.
Oh, that's silly. You also need to boost super armor,
Okay.
or at least you
Oh,
should.
that's twice as much text at this point. I'm not sure we can manage that in the written guide. So this is a boost that is shared with Ryu and with Ken. I don't think anybody else has a straight up key charge in Street Fighter.
I don't recall any that are literally this. Yeah, there are some slight variations.
Yeah, but I mean, one thing that I know about from the Ryu and from the Ken lesson, Donkey Kick and is it Axe Kick that's on
Which,
that
yeah,
key charge is on
axe
for
kick,
Ken?
axe kick and donkey kick, the two big kicks, and as you're probably, I think this is the direction you're going, and the two reasons that people don't boost key charge a lot.
Exactly. Yeah. So I would say that like key charge is an awesome boost that I would love to play as Ryu to get my Hadoken online, for example. But the cost of giving up a donkey kick, an incredibly good card, and axe kick, the cornerstone of my offense as Ken, is often prohibitive. Double lariat, I'm looking at this card, it's got a lot of numbers on it.
Yeah.
None of
By the
those
way, this
matter to
card
me.
that I'm saying isn't real. Uh, is basically another copy of Focus. It has one more power, one less armor, and 6 guard, which is a combination that allows it to survive ignore armor 6 power attacks, which are things that are designed to break Focus.
And
Um,
focus, notably one of the most infamous, like I don't know, if infamous is right, but like all-star stable defensive card. Everybody would prefer to have another copy of Focus if they could in their deck. Key charge is
yes,
more important than that.
correct.
Wow.
No hesitation. Yeah,
Okay.
you simply don't need to play double lariat because, uh, I mean, I'm giving you, in some senses, you can think of it as I'm being given the choice between playing a Focus fused with sweep or attaching that kind of value to every strike for the rest of the game.
Fair. That's. I mean, honestly, when you say it that way, it's like, yeah, I would love to EX transform a really, really, really great offensive card if it has my key transform on it. Like,
Yeah,
I'm going for the long term value play because I'm going to roll you over in the long term. Maybe I don't need the double area.
yeah, absolutely. Which I should bring up another point there since I did just reference the idea of getting it for the rest of the game. Um, this is a interaction that will be obvious when you see it in action, but I'm just going to make it explicit. Once you have a gauge, uh, you should almost never, or only in extraordinary circumstances, run dry because anytime you spend it, you already know you're going to hit.
Fair. Okay. Okay.
If you spend it on a true mix-up where you actually might not hit, that means that you have a tool that's going to get you another gauge and you know it. Like you never risk going dry because if you go dry, you stop playing Zangief, and that's not don't do that.
Right. Right.
Um, so
And
generally speaking, one is enough to keep your momentum going to the rest of the game, which is like 3 strikes, by the way.
right. Yeah. Fair. I was going to ask. So like sometimes when we have like a character who is clearly gunning for their exceed mode, I ask like, how much of the game am I going to be spending as Zangief, and versus as Zangief? But in this situation, it sounds like it's not that it's hard to get to or that I'm going to be struggling all game to get to my exceed mode. It's that when I get there, the game is most of the way over because it's not going to take me many hits to kill the opponent.
Right, right. Like I think this might have happened earlier actually, where it was like, okay, life total is 24 to 25, exceed, game's over in 3 strikes.
Right.
Maybe 4. No, I think it took 4. Um, but yes, like at this point, the game is about to end, but that's because of how overwhelmingly powerful you are.
Sure.
There is still neutral play. You know, savvy opponents and resourceful players, and like they will find ways to make it as hard as possible for you to land these hits. But you will land them, and they will
Right.
die.
Okay. Yeah. So
Mhm.
I've got key charge. I guess there's other text on there. We're not sure why exactly. Is
It's
there
relevant in case
any
wild.
fair? Yeah, and honestly, like a focus sweep is a pretty great wild swing. Is
Wild
there
swing.
is there any amount of gauge that any overage of gauge that I could conceivably get to that would make it safe to play double lariat, or is it always, always, always key charge?
I mean, if you're in Exceed mode and you have 2 or more gauge, then if you think it's the right play, you can play it.
Okay.
Right? Like two or more is important because if you have one, then the point is it that you can spend whatever that one is, and then you'll be able to key charge so that you have 2, so that you're never running dry.
Sure.
Or
So
you can key charge so that
you
have
can
2.
afford to gamble and throw a mix up that you aren't sure you're going to hit.
Yeah, or you can just do the key charge now so that you have 2, so that then you already know that you can do that.
Right.
If you if you're in basic mode and you have like 4 gauge, cool, you're exceeding. Now you have a gauge so that your ability's online.
Right.
I think we pointed that out, by the way, but your exceed cost says 3, but you always will have 4 gauge because there's no reason to exceed without a gauge.
Sure. Because there isn't a difference between this Zangief and this Zangief. There's definitely a difference between this Zangief and this Zangief when you have a gauge.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, but yeah, so double lariat is a good attack. It's actually a great attack. Very well statted. Like I said, it has properties that often make it a more reliable defensive tool than focus, even though it is a more aggressive one. You know, takes more damage, deals more damage. It also has a great after effect that often will allow you to reposition, which you pretty much shouldn't worry about because you will not be playing this attack on purpose, except in very rare circumstances. Sure. Almost always you'll key charge it.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense to me.
All right. Super armor. Might actually, probably one of the best ultra boosts in the game, and that's stiff competition.
Given who else is on the board here as our training dummy, I mean, I know there's a lot of amazing ultra boosts, but just +2 power, +2 speed is a kind of an all-star. This is at least up there with boosts like that.
Yeah. I mean, in a sense, this is +1 power, stun immunity, and later +3 power and +1 speed.
Right.
So the when you play super armor, your opponent has one correct response, which is to play whatever is in their deck that says discard a boost from play.
Okay.
If they do not do that, it means you're getting value out of this. And let me spell out why that is. You have stun immunity. So, assuming that you're playing something that makes sense, the most common example, by the way, here is assault. A stun immune assault cannot be dived. The opponent can't use dived to get past you. You will catch them. You're faster. You will stun them. Anything slower, obviously, you hit. Anything faster hits you, but is not going to get out of range unless it is exactly crossing. You can't close enough to catch them, in which case it was a mistake to do this, and you should have done something else.
Sure.
So the point of this is, your best case is that you get hit and you hit them back, because now you've gotten 2 gauge off of 1 strike. And you also have power, and you're probably at range 1. Because
you're playing something to advance in, sure.
Yeah. Like, the other common pairing is this attack, by the way, which is a phenomenal attack that I guess we might as well talk about now. Sweep is a good normal. Here's other sweep.
Right.
Stun immunity may not be on it because it's not critical, but that's because you played it when you had this boost in play.
Sure.
So it has stun immunity. Just to be clear.
Yep, makes sense.
This attack doesn't get played without stun immunity on purpose, generally. So stun immunity, range 1 to 3 because it closes 2. Even if your opponent dives over you, you're going to end at range 1. You are sad when they dive over you, let's be clear. The way the opponent plays against this card is by playing dive. But at least you ended up at range 1.
Right.
And also, by the way, it's going to deal 7 or possibly 9 damage. 7 with this or front side, 9 in Exceed mode.
Right. Yeah, God, I have to get used to Zangief numbers because I'm used to working really hard to deal 7 or 8. And
yeah, no, 7 is the lowest damage that you're dealing in late game is 6, and 7 is far more typical.
Right. That's it requires a little bit of a brain rewrite there. So
but this isn't even late game. This is just good. Like,
sure,
this is your building gauge by playing this boost.
Sure, yeah, this is still fine. So super armor is something that I'm going to use to build for the late game. Can my opponent? Is there any way for my opponent to, like, if they whiff on purpose, if they block into me, for example, if they empty cross out, they're at least not getting.
If they can empty cross out, then you played this at the wrong range.
Okay.
um, or you should have played a dive. So excuse me, in this situation, if you play this, then you look at this and you go, oh, I can play an assault and it's stun immune. But if they play across, they actually do win the strike because now you end up here and you don't have this.
Right.
The dive makes sense for you to play here. The thing that could happen that's bad is if they play dive and you play dive, that's okay. You still got gauge. It's fine.
Sure.
You won that strike.
Okay, I see. So the real loss condition is I get no gauge. The
Yes.
And then there's several win conditions that involve me getting some amount of gauge and some amount of damage in some combination, ideally more of both.
Yeah. You
Okay.
want the I get 2 gauge version, but your opponent will probably try to not let that happen.
Sure.
So most likely you will only get 1 gauge. That's fine. You got gauge. That's the point, is to guarantee gauge either because you got hit or because you hit them, if not both.
And obviously, because I have stun immunity, I'm guaranteed to at least reach my after trigger, unless I guess
Yep.
I killed the opponent on hit. Because I can't be stunned, I'm going to hit my after. Um,
Yep.
Ideally, I've been hit at that point. So, when I'm playing this, I'm the intuitively to me, if I'm already at range 1 with some amount of gauge as Zangief, I'm I don't care anymore. I'm here to kill my opponent. I'm going to kill my opponent. So this is something that I would play when I'm either not yet at range 1 or when I don't yet have gauge. Is that correct?
Well, you are very happy to play it at range 1 if you don't have gauge. That includes if you have not yet exceeded and built gauge.
Okay,
Right?
sure.
So
When I haven't reached my enough gauge state yet.
yeah. If you
Okay,
haven't assumed your final form, which is to say exceed mode plus gauge, that
right.
is your final form. If you've not yet reached that point, it just makes sense to play this in a lot of situations, especially if you're at range 1. Though it's a little surprising if you got a turn to play a boost at range 1, but it's
Right.
it's nice when that happens. It can happen. Um,
And the other
mhm.
question I had, so we talked about key charge as being this like very competitive boost in Ryu and Ken's kit, not so in Zangief's kit. You already mentioned I'm not going to play my ultras. This
Right.
is this top of this card is effectively blank.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is a really, really hype decoration that you should never consider playing.
Right. Right. That said, play Exceed for fun. It looks pretty
Yeah.
fun to hit.
Yeah. I've hit with 15 for this, so should you. It's fun.
Yeah,
Um,
that's pretty good.
yeah. It is, by the way, the Exceed mode 5 gauge version where you critical EX Ultimate Atomic Buster, and then
Oh
you
my
have speed
god.
7 and 15 power. To build your own Season 1 Ultra. Um, that is 5 gauge, not counting the 3 gauge you spent to exceed, but it's range 1, speed 7, power 15.
Yeah, I
Matching
mean
one other stat line in the game.
that's fine. That sounds okay to me. I guess I'll accept that as a consolation prize for not playing super armor.
Yeah. Do that for fun because it's
Right.
cool.
Right.
You could have killed them long ago if you had that many resources.
Sure.
Like 1 gauge converts to I murder my opponents, win 2 strikes at once. So you did not need to build 5 gauge. They could already have been dead.
Right. Okay. So I'm going to boost this every chance I get. I'm going to boost this every chance I get. That is already I'm halfway there. I have 2 copies of each of these cards. I've
Same.
now gotten everything I need out of Zangief.
These two together are 4 gauge, and that's without counting any block or just any other normal exchanges in which you happen to
Yeah.
hit them.
Yeah. It's
So
not
they're there.
that difficult to build gauge, even with just throwing some on curve normals occasionally. Throw a dive at 4, throw an assault at 3. Like you can probably do it.
Yep. Play a focus, play a block.
Sure.
Completely fine. So yeah, these are what these tools are for, is to get you gauge so that you can exceed.
Right.
They're very good at doing that. This is the weird one. So these 3 are their own thing. So here's Banishing Flat, aka Green Hands. It is 5 guard, which is a running joke because most cards with this kind of stat line and this kind of effect and this kind of character really wouldn't deserve 5 guard, but you got a little extra guard just in case.
Right.
So it's kind of to ensure that he will always get the close on it, because this looks like it is a range-based dodge. It says on it that if it's critical, attacks at range 4 or greater don't hit you. In some rare cases, you may in fact find that it is correct to critical this attack, but it almost always is not. Because with 5 guard, generally speaking, you can shrug off whatever hits you and close two, which is what you actually want when you play
and
this.
and I could save a gauge by doing it, keeping me from getting farther away from one win condition while getting closer to the other win condition, which is being at range 1.
Right. Because keep
Okay.
in mind, right, if you are criticaling this, you're not hitting. It's range 2 to 3. The only way to make it hit and also dodge is by boosting the other copy, which is inordinately expensive.
Right.
So if you crit this, sorry. Also, to be one more note, if you crit this, please note that it's speed 4. It is not unusual to I dodge at range 4 and then I close 2, but now I'm not at range 4, so I walk into and eat my opponent's sweep or spike because they anticipated this.
Sure. Okay. Because I mean, like, other than you have your critical after movement that you're never going to use because it's on key charge, you have stun immunity before close 2. You could conceivably play this at range to close in. I don't
This
think
is your
any of
other
your
range close.
okay. So you have a few things that you could conceivably do, all of which would lose to an opponent who anticipates you and just throws a sweep.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, which is the best time for them to do it. Generally, if they don't want to play a sweep at range 1, you will most often just kill it.
Right.
Uh, but yeah, so I do not like critically this. I do not like using it as a range dodge. I think it's totally unnecessary to do that. I'm totally happy to throw it. I will throw it from basically any range and from 2+, rarely at 1. But I've had cases where it was right.
Right.
Just because I'm sure that I want this close effect and I'm going to get it because it's speed 4 and 5 guard. Like, that's not very likely to get stunned.
So this is an opportunity to actually to talk about what we call grappler movement when we're actually describing a grappler, instead of, oh, it's like a grappler movement when we're talking about a character that isn't one. So this is a dynamic that happens a lot in characters who really care about a specific range, that sometimes I will be spending life to get there, right?
Yes.
So
This
outside
is
of
the iconic Zangief grappling movement. Like, this is actually clearly also intended to be that. But in my opinion, anytime you play Banishing Flat, it is a way of saying, I'm going to lose the strike, take some damage, but close 2.
right, and honestly, like, it might be fair to say, like, here are other things I can do in the middle of a strike to get to range 1. All of these, this one too.
Yep.
I don't have very many things that I can do to get gauge when I'm outside of a strike. There's, like, key charge is filling a more unique niche in my kit when I have all these other things that allow me to get to range 1 more easily.
Yeah. Movement wise, you have a lot of ways to close in.
Right.
Like, the idea of zoning Zangief is not particularly real. It's a nice thought, but and to be clear, as we'll talk about probably when it gets counterplay, you should be trying to keep him out of range 1 because
Right.
doing otherwise means you are conceding.
Right. Sure.
But you will not be able to keep him at range 1 indefinitely. The goal is to make him spend as much life as possible to accomplish his goal, because he will happily spend life for it, knowing that, then he'll just hit you for 9, and now that 6 life he spent didn't matter very much.
Yeah, it wasn't super important. So,
but if you get to the rhythm, or if the pacing of it is such that now he has to spend 6 more life to get to me, and he's at 6 life, that's a solid way to actually win.
Right. Then suddenly the life totals actually will matter, because he can probably make that up if the game goes on long enough. But he's on a timer at least.
Yeah.
Okay. So
because he's most comfortable. So speaking of that in game real quick, sorry, one more thing.
Go ahead.
As you can see from stun immunity, extra sweep, extra focus, he would really like to be able to play slows and massively outtrade you, even if you hit him first. So when he runs out of life, it gets much, much harder for him to function.
Okay, sure. So he wants to get some amount of lead and then absolutely run away with the game.
I would actually say that he expects to be behind for most of the game, just not below a threshold that allows him to take 1 more hit.
I see. Okay, it's almost a similar dynamic to like Taisei, where, like, life is actually converted into number of strikes, not like a out of 30 value.
Yeah, like, he looks at if he has 8 life, he's like, okay, if they don't one shot me, then I'll just kill them.
Right. Okay, I see.
And he's fine with that.
So going back to the grappler movement idea, we have Banishing Flat, which is like the iconic from Street Fighter. This is how Zangief gets in. If I don't have Banishing Flat, it, like, will anything do? Anything that moves me forward, I am okay to use as a way to get in, or are there kind of restrictions on that?
Willing, not necessarily like okay to use, but willing to use.
Okay.
So uh, these three, which I'm grouping them together because they are your mix up, at least in your specials, and we'll talk more about that in detail in a minute.
Right.
But like, uh, it might be good now to talk about how why I've grouped the normals the way I have. Um, you want to use dive and assault as attacks because you want to move 3 spaces closer or 2 spaces closer.
Right.
Um, you want to boost with cross. You do not want to strike with cross.
Right.
Um, there was I believe one of the only, not actually the only, but one of the only turn one concessions that I've ever had was when I was playing Ryu, and on turn one, I played reading cross struck with Hadouken.
Ooh,
Zangief crossed out to range 6, and I looped my Hadouken, and he
that's
scoots.
that's rough. That's
And I
a
don't
I
really blame him.
Yeah, that's a shuffle up, let's play again kind of moment. Ugh.
I've had similar happen to me, and you can come back from it because you are Zangief. You are built to come back from situations that bad.
Sure.
Um, it's just gonna be suffering. It's
Right.
grappler hell. Like that. That's the life of being a grappler. Is that neutral is always going to be bad for you.
Right.
You are
Right.
wading through a storm of arrows to get to your opponent.
Right. And you
Um,
can like just do it. You'll
yeah,
get
you'll
there,
get
and
there.
then you'll win the game that way. But it's going to be suffering the whole time.
Yeah, like
Okay.
you'll get there, and you'll hit them so hard that they won't remember that they were ahead.
Right.
Um,
Sure. That's a good way to put it.
yeah, but yeah. So these are attacks, and you want to use the movement on them as movement. Uh, the important thing about on curve things is, man, you love gauge, so it tends to be difficult to give these up when they won't connect. So at range 5, you may well play an assault or a dive knowing that that movement is good. It's just going to be a little hard to say, now I don't have a range 3 on curve option, because that
Right.
is something for which you do not have redundancy. Um, I should make that explicit. Without with one exception, that cost gauge, you're not on curve. This is what I was saying earlier about, like, you like to play counterattacks. Speed 4 at range 3, speed 2, speed 2, speed 4 at range 1, speed 6, which means your ability makes it 7. So you have one on curve special
Right.
with gauge. So your on curve tools are your on curve tools, which means at range 3, your only on curve is assault. At range 1, you've got a grasp or this, um, or technically critical cross. And at range 2, you don't have any on curve tools because you don't have an attack that hits at range 2. That's speed 6.
Right. Cross isn't
Um,
real.
yeah, you will not willingly play that unless it is a matter of losing the game or not.
Right.
Because
Okay.
this is inverse grappler movement, right? Where you go, I won the strike by 3 life, but I lost 3 spaces of movement. That's probably going to cost me at least 3 life to make up. Um,
Sure.
wasn't worth
You'd
it.
better hope that you dodge something pretty significant, and probably like more significant than most characters can even throw at you to have it be worth spending that cross.
Yeah, the time that it's most okay to cross out is when you just boost the other cross next turn and you cross back in or run
Right.
back in.
Right. But also, your opponent is trying to get you to this position anyway. Like, don't do that for them.
Yeah, you are helping them out a lot.
Yeah. Okay.
All
So
right.
so we have two gauge builders and a distance closer. It sounds like as kind of like our utility buttons, I guess.
1 second. To finish answering your thought about grappler movement, or at least try to finish, um, you have these various movement tools on these specials, but the only one that I would actually consider using as a grappler movement tool is Vanishing Flat, because the others are all far, far better in other cases. This one has
Okay.
key charge, and these two as part of your core mix-up.
Right.
Um, like generally, uh, and here's why, right? With grappler movement, we're talking about spending life to accomplish some sort of board state change, and not burning unnecessary resources, such as options, gauge.
Right.
Well, this costs gauge to use as a grappler movement tool. This costs
Right.
gauge to use as a grappler movement tool. This costs gauge to use as a grappler movement tool. You can see why I say no to all of them.
So I'm spending life, which I'm okay with. That's an
Yes, and
acceptable.
this one just says you're just going to spend some life and move in 2 spaces, and that's
Right.
great. Let's do that.
I see. Okay. So just life, that's fine. Life and gauge, again, it would have to be a pretty dire situation. I'll do it if I have to. But if
Yeah, do it if
Vanishing
I
Flat
have.
is available, I'll always go with that.
Definitely. Yes, and then these don't cost gauge, which is why you can use them for that sake. It's just that
Right.
it also costs you an on-curve tool, which is a
Sure.
little bit sad to
Right.
lose.
They cost me an option. Um,
Yes.
and this is something that I can't even play at range one. I can't hit with this at range one, at least.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Like the reason I played this at range one a non-trivial number of times is because it may have been my only answer to grasp. Because this does beat grasp. They keep you at range one, and that means you won.
Sure. Right. That's fair.
Like that's winning.
Right. Right. Okay. So like utility options on this side, mix up options on this side, it sounds like. Um, and I would prefer to not mix, basically. I'd prefer to keep these as things I want to actually use to kill my opponent.
Yeah.
Oh,
In just in shorthand, these are your attacks.
okay.
Like this is the thing you'll play as an attack, but it's a tool. These are your boosts. Um, often when I do this and there's one card conspicuously missing, it's because I'm planning on talking trash about it. But no, this is just a boost. It's just a godlike boost that I can't even group with these. It doesn't build gauge. Um,
Right.
this is the boost where you go, oh, my opponent ran away. I'm going to look so sad as I spend 3/4 to advance. And then they laugh maniacally and they run away, and then you boost this, and now your hand is full, and you're still coming closer.
And you're still pretty close to them. You're holding
Yeah.
center of the board. Yeah,
Like
that's
this boost is the kind of thing that makes it totally okay to spend most of your hand because you'll just get it back.
okay. So this it only moves me forward one, but
Yes.
it facilitates much more aggressive movement with the rest of my hand.
Yep.
Okay. Or
It means
really
that
much
you
more
you
aggressive
can
anything with the rest of my hand. If I want to just start throwing attacks, I can.
yeah. Yeah, like it's your reload. It is,
Okay.
you are drawing 3, advancing 1. That's 4 force of value that you're
Right.
getting off this ultra that was not going to be played as an attack anyway.
Right. Again, very much like your other ultra, this might as well be blank for our line.
In most cases, yeah.
Okay.
I will as a special case note that although this one is a glorious daydream, Siberian Blizzard has some impressive use cases, and it is not impossible to be in Exceed mode and just play Siberian Blizzard as an attack. Um, there are cases where, especially if their grasp is down and they are cornered, this is just unbeatable. And you kind of look at their deck and you go, oh, I mean, okay, if I hit you with this, I still have a gauge and I'm also drawing some cards. That seems fine. Yes, please take 8. Um, it is nice because it is a stat line that does not require your ability whatsoever, which your main mix-up tends to prefer that you are adding to things.
Okay.
It's
So
just a good attack, and it also beats dive and prevents people from diving out, which is a thing that they will very much want to do.
definitely. Okay. Sure. So I will use this in situations where it calls for it, and it sounds kind of like for the most part I'm planning to use it to win more, because if I'm already in Exceed mode, I'm already winning. This is a way to
Yeah,
put a capstone on that. But most of the
yeah,
time, jump in is just too much value to ignore.
yeah. And
Okay.
yeah, like I said, the attack, you may find situations where it's like, oh, I need exactly this at
Right.
exactly this moment. Great, lovely, use it. Don't expect to though.
Okay.
It's just you'll notice those situations because you were already holding this because you were planning on boosting it.
You were planning on boosting it, sure. Okay. And also, I mean, like there's not, like we mentioned, there's very little competition for this boost. It seems like there's not even very much competition for this as like change cards fodder. Why would you do that? You have better
Yeah,
change cards right here.
yeah. But yeah, there is just no reason. The boost is better.
Right. Okay. Yep, that makes sense to me. So, utility side of things, attack side of things, should I take that to mean that are these boosts down here as blank as these attacks are up here?
Uh, honorable mention. So, uh, these have two of these have uses. This one's blank. So I love effects like this. This is an effect that lets you pull a card out of the opponent's hands. Name a range. The opponent must discard a card including that range or reveal a hand with none. If I recall correctly, which I should have looked this up beforehand, given I knew I was doing this. You can name X. You can name NA. And you can name 47.
If you just
Things
want
that do
hand
not.
information.
Yeah, if you just want to see the hand. This is a terrible idea, and you should not do it. But also, playing this boost was a terrible idea, and you should not do it, except in the very specific case of, let's see, my opponent is holding the Astral Heat that they just picked up because they're a Blades Blue character. and I need to get it out of their hands.
And
And they have
and
nothing with shared ranges.
right, yeah, that's the other thing is like it's not parry. You have a wider net of getting something with parry than with parry rather, but you are less likely to get the exact thing you want because you're like, all right, I name range 1 and my opponent discards the grasp instead of the range 1 ultra that I'm afraid of.
Yeah, because like just to be explicit on how this works, right? Um, if they have this hand and I name 2, they can
Right.
choose to discard any of these
Sure.
because
Sure.
range 2 is within 2 to 3, 1 to 3, and 1 to 2. Um, so it gives the opponent the greatest leeway in deciding what they discard if they have multiple options. Which, why would you do that? But more importantly, why in the world did you boost this card? I no. This attack is godlike. This is your other sweep. It is often better than sweep. Um, and it does not sweep a card out of their hands. That is the thing that is a side grade. And I guess it costs a gauge, but it's fine. You were probably playing gauge anyway, or spinning gauge anyway, if you were playing an actual attack.
Right.
Um, and also, of course, sometimes it doesn't cost a gauge, but we already went over that. But yeah, it closes 2. It has stun immunity one way or another, and it does at least 7 damage one way or another. Like, I guess my opponent can start the game with 23 life. That's fine.
Because this is so maybe not 100% guaranteed, but it's pretty close. It's probably gonna land. It's probably gonna do its damage.
The thing that might well happen is that the opponent will dive over you, and now you're
Right.
still at range 1, but you have 1 fewer gauge. But if you did that, then that means that you already know where your next gauge is coming from, and it's fine.
Sure. And they've lost a dive that they can't then use on super armor. That's an okay trade for me.
Yes. No. Shout out to season 6. They can tech hits, and it doesn't hurt them nearly so much because they were not planning on playing block into Zangief. That's a bad idea.
That's a fair point. That's a fair point. So there are much better boosts in Exceed that would not be good enough to compete with this attack. Um, the fact that this is not a particularly all-star boost in the first place means why there's no reason to ever not play Flying Power Bomb.
Yeah. If this had key charge in it, it would be it would be a really hard call.
Okay. Okay.
But it would take a boost that good and that important for Zangief,
right,
to compete with this attack. This attack's amazing.
And given that key charge is currently on focus sweep, that says a lot about the quality of this attack.
Yes.
Okay.
And if anyone is like looking at the numbers and trying to figure out why I'm speaking so highly about this when it's not that much better than sweep itself, it's because stun immunity pulls an inordinate amount of weight. On defense, you can say, I'll just have stun immunity and it's fine. And a great many things that are all going to be matchup specific turn off.
Sure.
Your opponents
and just spike, for example.
Yeah, you just don't get hit by spike, or rather, sorry, you get hit. You don't get stunned by spike. You don't get stunned by ignore guard ultras. You don't get stunned by 13 power ultra. You don't get stunned by anything in the world because that's how that works.
Sure.
It is. I'm just going to do my thing, and we will be at range 1 in all likelihood. Again, barring you playing in a situation where you probably shouldn't because they could cross out, or the opponent doing something particularly unusual, like if they're a character who has after movement where they can push to retreat 1 with grasp, and you go,
sure.
darn, this happens. And by the way, that's the kind of thing that if your opponent's able to do, that is what it looks like for you to lose a mix-up. You go, oh, darn, my slow, because they played their particularly special thing that got an unusual amount of range or unusual amount of movement. They managed to make it so that I took like 3 damage, and I didn't hit them.
Right.
And their goal is
and
to
I didn't end up
that.
at range 1.
Yes. To be clear, yes. Thank you. Because if they dive over, you're still at range 1, and although that is a loss because you probably spent gauge, it is not nearly as so much of a loss.
Right.
The loss case is usually they hit me and found a way to stay out of range 1 through some clever use of whatever their toolkit allows them to do.
Okay.
Darn, I guess I take 3 or 4 damage. Okay, they need to do that, 7 or 8 more times. And anytime they screw up, they get slammed and they're down 1 more tool, which weakens their side of being able to answer my mix-up.
And how many more of those super special things do they have that can make enough range to deal with Zangief's various ways to close back in?
Yeah, because keep in mind, If the shape you need is sweep, cool, you've got 2.
You've got a sweep, sure.
If the shape you need is the fast thing, which we'll talk about this one next, you've got 2.
Right.
You have redundancy in your tools. This is so if they call the mix-up right once, it's harder for them to call it right a second time because you still have whatever side of the mix-up you just played.
Sure.
All right, on to next side of the mix-up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. This is the fast side. Speed 6 at range 1 is under curve. It's not what you would call the fast side, and you shouldn't. It's not. This is speed 7 if you play it. Either because you EX it, which I'm notably fond of doing, or because you use your ability to make it speed 7. The hit effect is terrible, so you generally want the critical. Now I say that this is a hit effect that actually lets this card beat sweep.
Truth.
You don't want it to beat sweep. You would rather be at range 1, eat the sweep, because now you're still ahead.
Right.
Though, my favorite thing, of course, is to just play it in Exceed mode, at which point it kills sweep anyway.
It kills sweep anyway, and you don't even have to choose.
Yeah, it's not. Don't even worry about it.
So, like how Flying Powerbomb notably is stronger than sweep for the use cases that we're talking about, stun immunity, movement is all great stuff. The fast side of my mix-up has a significant edge over the normal fast side of my mix-up because 4 when I have +3 power is a lot more than 3 when I have +3 power.
That sounds right. I apologize.
To put that another way, the fact that this can beat sweep and this can't,
yes,
means that this version of the fast side of my mix-up, Atomic Suplex, is a lot more valuable to me than Grasp is.
Yeah, in that regard, so non-crit Atomic Suplex is a range 1 mid speed. It is under curve, but it beats sweep.
Sure.
By pushing somebody away. At that point, it is actually a redundancy for the other side of the mix-up, but which we'll talk about next. Critical Atomic Suplex does not beat sweep, but it is speed 7, so it is redundant with Grasp.
Got it.
So it's pulling double duty for its redundancy, which does mean that it is effectively split, but also, but also this is kind of this is the one of these that I probably played the least, and that's just because I like to play bigger numbers and these have lower numbers.
Right, sure. Okay.
But yeah, realistically, the way I play Atomic Suplex is often it's either crit or it's CX, or it is critical at range.
Okay.
So that's where it is doing the grappler movement trick, where you pay to gauge to close 3 at speed 6.
Right.
And although, again, Ryo is always messing up our examples, it probably wouldn't do that against Ryo. There's many characters that I would do that against, going, oh, I guess I could lose the game against Navy Pressure right now. Let me not do that and instead close 3 spaces.
Sure. And I mean, we talked a second ago about how we'd rather not do that with our attacks, right? But yeah, evaluating these two, first of all, this is going to hit for more damage, and that's more better. But also, 2 spaces is less than 3 spaces.
Right. If you're going to do it with one of them, I would usually do it with Suplex.
Sure. I'm getting more distance out of my gauge expenditure, and it's at a faster speed, which means I might be able to dodge something.
Right.
Some good upsides to doing it that way. Okay.
Yeah. It is still something you would prefer not to have to do, but you have the option, and there will come times when you need to.
Sure. Okay.
The boost on this is actually totally playable. This boost is a force is a move action in disguise.
Yeah, sure. 1 force special boost, 2 spaces of movement. That's how much the move action would take.
Yep. It says close instead of advance, so it's not any more efficient than if you were. Boosts that allow you to move are sometimes more efficient than the regular move action because you could get past the opponent. You can't with this. It's just 2 spaces close to the opponent for 2 force. But hey, now you have plus 2 armor as well.
Right.
Great. That's the point of it. You use it when you want to take the walk action for 2 spaces. You do that, but also now you have plus 2 armor.
Okay.
Not much more to say about that. It is like I said, you will be taking the walk action. You'll be paying force to move. Keep in mind that you will have a reload coming down the line at some point.
Right.
So it is totally fine to do that. And when you have this, you often should decide that it's totally fine to do that. Just make sure you don't get rid of it when you have also gotten rid of Grasp, because you need to
Okay.
keep some fast sides of your mix-up.
You need to represent something fast in your mix-up.
Right.
Okay. Okay. So
Mhm.
the armor is going to let me play a little bit into the other side of the grappler fantasy, which is that my opponent can keep on hitting me and I'm going to keep on coming. But
Yep.
compare that to Potemkin, for example, or to your favorite grappler, Imogene. Um, Zangief is leaning less into that side of the mix-up, notably just because this is 2 armor, and I don't know, Tager has 3 armor on his boosts or things like that. It's not as important to me to do that. It's more just like, hey, movement's cool. I'll take the movement.
Yes, I believe Sager actually has 9 armor printed on his boosts.
Right,
But
definitely. I meant 3 armor on a single.
yes,
It's
yes, he
on.
has a single special boost that is 3 armor in it. Yes.
Yeah, it's on Tager driver with no downside except that you're losing Tager driver.
Yes. But yes, and this is kind of your Tager driver, which is funny because it's not the driver. It's just that it's often going to be a 7 power attack.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, fair.
on that note, your real Tager driver is this.
Yeah, I know. I
All
know
right,
this card.
you should.
Yeah,
Spinning Pile Driver is one of the most infamous mid speed, probably the most infamous grappler mid speed and exceed. I'll say that.
I think
It
so.
is big, dumb special. It is speed 4. No, it's not. It's speed 5.
Sure.
However, at speed 4, it will still absolutely destroy. Block, focus, sweep, most any counterattack designed to be a counterattack. A fair number of Guardy speed 3 options. If you initiate a lot of speed 4 options that are trying to get out of it, such as dive.
Sure.
Um, and to add insult to injury, it discards a card at random from the opponent's hands.
Cool.
If somebody loses the mix-up into this, all right, they played the wrong thing, which means, and by the way, this is a general pattern, but it's most egregious with Spinning Pile Driver, right? So if they call a mix-up wrong, you win the mix-up, you hit them for a bunch of damage, and the option they played, they don't have available to beat whatever the thing is that it would have beaten later. So now
To
you can
be
play
what they
that.
thought you were playing.
Yes. So you go,
Right.
you played your last sweep, die, and now my grasp is safe because you
I
can't beat it
see.
anymore.
I
Also
see.
lose another random card, so you don't have the resources to recover.
Right. And maybe you just lost another component of your mix-up defense on another of my cards by losing that card at random.
Yep. This is kind of the mix-up dynamic and the opponent having answers or not having answers is sort of a hidden backgrounds to the overall grappler gameplay of I'm going to walk toward my opponents, I'm going to spend resources to move toward them. That resource will often be life. I'm going to, and then eventually I'll be in their face. And by the time I'm in their face, I can look at their discard pile, figure out if they have anything if there's anything that I have that they cannot answer, and if so, they die.
Right.
And if not, then I'll throw a mix up. And if they call it wrong, they die. And if they call it right, okay, I lose some life. We do it again.
Right. And to your point about Spinning Pile Driver in particular, if they lose this mix-up, they are losing at least probably like 2 possible defenses to other mix-ups later on. The one that they just played and the one that they lost from the hit effect.
Yep.
Okay.
And that's devastating is probably an understatement.
Yeah.
This card generally does about as good a job of ruining the opponent's life as this card. It just
Cool.
costs 4 fewer gauge.
Yeah.
So
interesting. So I was about to make a joke, like conveniently also in Exceed mode, when you crit it, it stuns focus, ignoring the ignore armor, ignore guard part.
well, it sure does.
So obviously, yeah, that's great. It hits really hard. Is this something that you would be, if you're at range 1 and you're striking, you're probably criticaling, I assume. But if you're this Zangief, would you just throw this out?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, because like, as I was noting, it does most of the jobs you need it to do, and especially if they have slows and they are trying to prevent you from. This is a good board state, right? Right here, Zangief is really telegraphing a grasp because he wants to throw Ryu in the corner.
Right.
Grasp also catches cross, so like this is a great time for Zangief to grasp, which means it's also a great time for Zangief to play Spinning Pile Driver and destroy that focus that Ryu wants to play.
Okay.
This is your mix-up.
And not criticaling on front side mode doesn't really telegraph anything because you could just be building gauge.
Right.
The fact that this doesn't have
that.
critical text on it doesn't matter because I have critical text on my card. I'm not giving away any information by not criticaling here. I don't feel like.
Right, and it's what makes this particular dynamic especially dangerous because the critical grasp is unnecessary in this situation, especially if you initiate.
Right,
You can just play a grasp; it's on curve. You don't need more.
right,
But
right.
then this is completely online with no need for a critical, and that should make the opponent sweat.
Sure. Okay, I see. And then if I do get it into the late game, you know, with this, there's nothing that gets worse about critical SPD and exceed mode. I'm happy to do it, but I
Yeah,
will play it beforehand if I need it.
do it as part of your mix. Play it beforehand if you need to. Play it not non-crit if you feel like it, especially if you think you can catch a slow on defense. It's hilarious to do that. Um, like it doesn't need to consume crit to function. It's not like flying power bomb and to some extent suplex.
Okay.
It works just fine as is. I would also like to note something. Um, I've talked about, or maybe I haven't. I often make these cards unbeatable. An EX flying power bomb with critical is speed 4, so it can't be dived over. If my
Yep.
opponent can't leave, then it crosses irrelevance, and it does yes damage, like
Yep.
minimum 8, probably more than that. So it Sun's Focus. That's a card you can't beat. You will simply die. It costs 2
Yes.
copies, so I probably don't bother. It's probably not worth it. Suplex, I'm much more willing to spend both copies because I think each individual copy is a bit less likely to get as much out of it as if I would if I just EX it, because EXing can save me a gauge. Or if I spend the gauge, it means that I can cover, for example, my opponent initiating with grasp. A bunch of useful things. In Exceed mode, this EX is 188, I think. Yeah, 188. That's correct.
Yep.
That's you don't beat that stat line.
No, you
You
don't.
you you can't even outspeed it. Like
You
you
also
could
don't.
outspeed this one in trade.
You also
You can't.
don't print that stat line.
That's true.
Yeah.
So we've got 1 to 3, 10, 4, 188. The best version of this stat line is what 196.
Right.
It's not strangely anemic compared to these.
Compared to the total unbeatability of these.
Yeah. This does not become faster than grasp.
Right.
This does not have any guard at all. It doesn't have any confirm. It always loses to grasp and things like grasp. This is, in fact, a mid speed. The identity of this card is a mid speed, and it always will be whenever you play it. It will
It's just
never
a
be
really,
guaranteed.
really threatening one.
It's just an incredibly dangerous one.
Okay.
That's Grappo life. Accept it. You will be playing mix-ups. Your mix-ups are horrifyingly strong, but don't get hung up on trying to make something unbeatable, because then you never play this, and then your opponent can beat you. Because if
Right.
if there's any side of the mix-up you're not willing to play, they don't have to fear it.
Right.
That's not good for you.
Right.
You need them able to play into all 3 of these, because if they are able to play into all 3 of them, you're playing one of them. You have a lot more redundancy than they do in all likelihood. And when you hit them, you win twice as hard as when they hit you, for the most part.
So something that you've said in the past about cards like this, maybe we've probably found. I mean, we've talked about a lot of grapplers in the past, Tager and Potemkin, for example. If you lose the first copy of the card either by hitting it or by it swept out of your hand, parried something, you have to spend it to move. Be careful with the second copy because you
Yes.
need the threat of this to function as a mix-up character because of Potemkin's Zangief's other redundancy, where he does have something to do on the fast and slow side. That seems like it's like doubly true for your mid speed. Is that fair to say?
It is very true here. I will note that you have a tool that beats sweep, 2 actually, in that you can crit these and they beat sweep. But you
Right.
have a tool that just beats sweep non-crit, right? Like you can kick somebody away. You
just
don't
push
want
them, yeah.
to, but
Right.
you can. But you do not have, in front side, you do not have a thing that beats focus at range 1 other than this.
Okay.
And that could be significant. If you call a mix-up wrong, you play a grasp, they take 2 because your grasp had 4 power, presumably.
Right.
You take 4, they get a card. They're maintaining their resources, they are building gauge, they are moving toward their end game, and their life is higher than yours. As long as you got gauge from that, you're not going to be the saddest. But it is still notable that, like, what am I trying to say? Sorry. I blanked on that.
I mean, I definitely get what you're talking about. It also occurs to me that, like, if I'm this Zangief in Exceed mode, my opponent can no longer even play focus, or at least not safely. So,
Yeah. They play
like,
focus when they think it is exactly grasp or maybe this.
right,
But they are not safe even against sweep.
right. So I'm imagining a scenario where my opponent is like rushing to get the value of their focus while they can, while I'm still on front side. So spinning pile driver, especially in the early game, might have like a more target rich environment. It's got more things it can hit.
That is how I've usually. Well, that is in many cases what I found to be the case. Though it's actually usually it's probably an overstatement. Um, I've played against a lot of characters who have reading on focus, and I've had that played against me a lot
Right.
because
Right.
they look at focus and they go, "Wow, what am I playing this
What's the
into?"
point of this card? What am I beating with
Like
this at this point?
I'm in a lot of trouble. I don't really want to do that. I would rather reading him and try to make him waste a turn, lose something valuable, waste a boost, and so forth. And I've lost a lot of strikes that way.
Okay.
And then I kill them. You know, um, like I accept and embrace that when they play focus, or sorry, when they play reading, if they have it, not every character has reading. If they play reading, I'll lose that strike. I will in most cases then keep walking toward them, keep building up, and squish them, uh, crush their heads between uh my bear like hands.
Yeah, whichever two muscle groups you feel like, to be honest with
Yeah,
you, you have a lot to choose from.
feel like I'm referencing Wreck It Ralph, but I can't remember it anyway. Um, but yes, so yes, this has in some cases target. This is often a player matchup. It can be sometimes a character matchup where some characters will have more slows that they really want to land, like the particularly punishing ones, but those often
Right.
are.
Right.
Um, put the fear of God in them. Um, like make it a problem for them to play anything. Um, and that's not hard for you to do because this card absolutely dominates its role. Like this is a fantastic attack.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. There's another card I'm going to put here in a minute. But actually, it should go here, I think. But I will first add. This has a boost on it. You're allowed to play the boost. Um, you probably shouldn't, but this is the case of your opponent has speed in play, and you already have this or something like it in play,
Right.
and you just feel like getting more gauge.
Oh,
Um,
sure. Okay. The armor itself is not in this situation. The armor itself is not to confirm. You've already got the confirm. You know you're not getting stunned, but hey, I get 2 gauge and I'll take less damage.
yeah. The
Okay.
point of this is to build more gauge when you already know you're building gauge.
Mm,
Um, that said, it has the problem of, well, if I'm in that situation, and again, I said that they have speed in play is usually part of the setup because that's what ensures that they're going to be faster than me.
right.
And I also want them to be in a board state where they are not either able to or likely to, depending on what's left, dive or cross depending on what side they're on.
Right.
In an empty way, sorry. So no cross here, no dive here. Those are problems, right?
Right.
But you know, in a case like this, my worst case is now they played a block, and that's legitimately a reason not to play this boost because
Sure.
you just wasted it. That 2 armor doesn't mean anything. What you did was you put this in your discard instead of your gauge, and you shouldn't have done that.
Right, right. So, and everything that we said about super armor, like, don't play it when your opponent has an opportunity to not give you value from it. If I've already put the super armor down, and then I spend another turn putting thick skinned down on top of it, I'm giving my opponent a lot of agency here to change the board state or find a way to not give me value out of this stuff. I'm kind of, it's like over investing in a strike. It's like putting down too many copies of Fierce.
You're over investing. You're kind of giving up tempo. You're saying I'm really really on top of this, right? Like my opponent, I guess, had 0 cards and spent 2 turns preparing at range 1 because they felt like they had no choice.
Right,
Is like I guess the reason that this happened, but it'd be pretty shocking. And the thing that you're throwing away is a thing that actually has significant value to you, unlike this ultra.
right,
So
right. Oh, sure.
you're allowed to do it. I seldom find cases where I want to, um, or I think it's remotely a good idea.
Okay. And you wouldn't be interested particularly in throwing thick-skinned when you don't already have super armor down. It's not enough to confirm it because it's not stun immune. It's just a little bit less damage.
Generally, I
Okay.
have to be very sure my opponent is going to hit me, and I'm going to not get stuns for this to be worthwhile.
Right.
And I'm
Right.
going to be slower, right? I need all of those things to be true.
Right. Okay. All right.
Um,
And again, that's a little bit you're giving up a lot of control by doing that. Your opponent probably has enough options to meaningfully diffuse that compared to super armor.
yeah.
Okay.
If you're in the situation where like all of those things are likely to be true, it'd be really shocking if the opponent didn't have the choice of instead not engaging, going by either walking or playing an attack that deliberately missed. I've absolutely been in this situation where I had super armor up at range 1 and the opponent played a spike. Um,
Right.
I'm not convinced it was the best thing they could have done, but it makes sense to me that they didn't want to hit me.
Yeah.
Um, like that, fair enough. Much more likely that they'll play a dive, by the way, because that at that point they have gotten rid of the boost and also not let you hit them, which is why I really like having assault.
Right. Sure. To follow
Uh,
up. That makes sense. Okay. Okay.
yeah. There is another attack I want to put here on the list of big Zangief attacks that are my favorite attacks. However, I don't have it. It's not here. Can you promote me real quick?
Sure can. Hold on a second.
Um, okay, let's see. Found it. Okay. So range 1, power 8, speed 7.
Oh yeah. Okay. We just got done saying that you can't make a 188. 187 gain advantage though. That's fine. That's no problem.
Well, at least this cost you two. Oh, so did this one actually. Yeah, no, I can't really. But it gains advantage, so that's actually better.
So this is
Well, at
good.
least it doesn't corner them, I guess. But yes, this is godlike. Of course, you will often need to be using assault earlier in the game just to close in.
Right.
Um, that yeah. In the event you didn't, for example, because you played this boost to close in instead,
Right.
and you were able to fight at range 1 a lot of the time, then maybe you get to throw the range 1 God tier assault or EX assaults, and it's a good time. Even if not, of course, EX assault is always fantastic for you. It doesn't get outsped by cross except for EX cross. You go to range 1 and you have advantage. Your opponent will rightly be terrified of you playing assault as Zangief, because anytime you play assault and hits, I guess not strictly anytime, almost anytime that happens, you have won the strike.
Right. You've got to range 1. All of the sort of received exceed wisdom about assault trading down into sweep. You don't care. You're at range
Yeah,
1
lock
now.
that off. You
Right.
you lose 2 life in a random card. Uh, okay, they are still losing that strike. Like
Right. You're at range 1 and they can't use their turn to get away from you because it's still your turn. This also, I mean, EX Assault being a 187 in Exceed mode also does a pretty great job of selling Banishing Flat as my preferred way to move in because I
yeah,
can't do that with Banishing Flat.
yeah. Vanishing Flat is never going to have an impressive stat line.
Right.
It just isn't.
Right. All right. So
Um,
use this. Use my other even my various boosts that move me in, so that I can hopefully preserve EX Assault as a way to completely destroy my opponent.
that would be that's my favorite thing to do with it. I'm well known to be addicted to EX Assault. It
Yep.
is also totally fine to play 2 different assaults in cases where you are forcing the opponent to cross out or otherwise do something that they don't want to do because the threat of you landing assault is too big.
Sure.
Which, by the way, this is Exceed. We like mix-ups. If they think you play assault,
Just
you do have 2 other things. One of which also brings you to range
also
1,
moves
and
you
one of
in.
which
Sure.
destroys them for doing what they
Okay.
what they wanted to do. So don't not play mix-ups just because the assault is that good. You still need mix-ups to win, right? Like I praise these attacks so highly, but don't play just one side because you can destroy somebody's life with the EX.
Right.
In either case, sometimes play the other. You still
Right.
value mix-ups.
And similar to the grasp SPD play where I think we were in this
Yeah, this telegraph
situation.
grasp, yeah.
Yeah. If we're here and man, they're feeling that the pressure from that assault. Uh, Sometimes throw a spike in.
Yeah. Yeah, especially if life totals are low, but even not necessarily just then.
Right.
If the opponent runs out of grasps because they tried to call your answers wrong, which this can depend on matchup. Some people have more speed 7s, but if they run out of speed 7s, range 1 assault becomes a lot better.
Sure. Yeah.
Like you have a range 1 speed 6, potentially power 7. And I'm going to say it is power 7 because in this mode, you probably shouldn't be just spending a gauge to gain 1 gauge. you should be trying to find ways to build gauge so that you can
Right.
exceed.
Right. Yeah. You probably aren't even super interested in running offense on this side. You're much more
Yeah,
interested in
there's no
getting
need.
here.
Yep.
Okay.
And
Okay.
your ways to do that mostly do not involve that you going on the offense and initiating.
Right.
Quick note
Um.
about exceeding.
Yeah.
Or sorry, since we've highlighted its importance, let's now make explicit something I don't think I mentioned before. When you exceed, pull up to 2 is actually important. If you get to 4 gauge, do not automatically slam this button. For example, if you are here, it may be worthwhile to play some more neutral, play some more scary attacks, ride things out, build more resources, because getting more gauge is still even better.
Right.
Um, Eventually, they will probably try to leave the corner because they have chosen not to concede.
Yeah.
That is when you exceed.
Right. You pull them back in because when you're here and you have 4 gauge, you are already winning.
Yes.
You're not as we mentioned, like you're not Zangief yet. You've only gotten D's only increased the size of the card a few times so far in this game. Exactly. You're around here maybe. That's still bigger than this card.
Yes.
So don't give up the turn that you could be spending just capitalizing on this advantage by doing this for for I mean I was gonna say no value. That can't be true because you're clearly getting value out of it, but for less value than you would get by pulling them back in.
Yeah. It's 2 force, at least 2 force, sometimes 3, but it's usually 2 force of resource edge, and
Right.
you care a lot about resources. You are a grappler. People are going to try to zone you.
Right.
You want to make that hard.
Right. Okay. Okay.
You should
Um
also probably not strictly, but you should almost always plan to use this when it will pull them to range 1. The best case
sure.
is to pull them into the corner, but people often won't let you do that. They will do this. Using run or something else to make sure that this does not pull them into the corner, because that is the worst thing that can happen to them.
Right.
Uh, it is permissible to drag them in closer from range, but I generally recommend that you do it on a turn where the flip will take you to range 1, because at that point you're at range 1, you're in exceed mode. They sign their last will and testament. Like
Right.
this is a
Right.
problem for them.
They certainly can't. I mean, sometimes we talk in other lessons about like you need to be able to exceed when you know that you're not really under threat. Well, if you've
Mhm.
wound up at range 1 in exceed mode, who is going to strike into you?
Yeah, not many, and only if they have to.
Right. This is a safe time for you to exceed because now you're here and they need to spend their turn running away.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. So, D, I think the only uh, boost or attack that we haven't talked about so far is reach.
Oh,
Um,
right. That does exist. This is not a bit. I actually forgot.
okay. I mean, sometimes when we forget stuff like that, it's because it's not a super important part of the kit, and I was wondering if that's kind of where we're going with it. But
So it's good. It is it is so often not worth the resources you spend on it.
hmm,
Here are the main reasons. Usually, the reason you would want to attach extra range to something is to hit at long range. Sounds obvious, right?
sure,
With something that wouldn't normally hit, so like a range 2 grasp.
right,
Um, and that can have its uses. This is a pretty good grasp situation. A range 4 sweep or assaults, which is like fine, except sweep didn't move you in, and assaults only got you to range 2. And was that really worth it?
Yeah.
Or I guess having help you the other banishing flat, which, as I said, is just not going to be worth the resources you're spending on it. It does let you do some amusing things, like I said, range 2 grasp, which now is a mix up with range 2 spinning pile driver. It's just kind of expensive, and if you need it, you probably aren't at range 1, and therefore, why are you doing something that is not putting you at range 1?
sure,
Um, like obviously the grasp might, but it might not. If they play a focus, then it beats the grasp, and although you stun it, you don't end up at range 1.
you don't end up at range 1, sure.
This makes you sad.
And
So
and you also
generally,
you also have the card that you're using to get from not range 1 to range 1 in your hand if you have reach. Just play the banishing flat.
yeah, like
Yeah.
in most cases. So the case for banishing flat, and I actually did this earlier today, to use it as an actual attack is to play it at range 1 and say, now you can't even cross away from my sweep or
Right.
whatever.
Right.
Um, and that also is, of course, a mix-up where you can Uh, it's at range 2, threaten one thing, play another, as long as you have something that's going to get you into range 1. An EX, if you're threatening EX Grasp, EX Spinning Pile Driver, can be a perfectly good EX Assault. But yeah, my usual case for this is we are starting at range 1, and I need to make sure that you can't cross or, well, mostly just cross. Cross, or I guess you're playing chip.
Right. Or some of the other situations that we discussed about how to beat like how to really beat flying power bomb is by doing that special character thing that they can do where they push Q and retreat 1 or something.
Yeah.
This
Tools like
shuts
that,
off
it can shut
that.
off.
Got it. Okay.
But it's quite expensive. You know, it's a force, it's a vanishing flat that was probably going to give you 2 force of value at some point.
Right.
And whatever card you're playing, because you're also initiating, which you're not unhappy to initiate. It's just that you often don't need to because your stats are so high.
Okay. Okay.
But yeah, so reach is good. I seldom play it, but there are certainly cases where it's useful.
It's a serious commitment on a character who doesn't really seem to need to make commitments very often.
Correct. It is
Okay.
the highest and only real force cost on any boost, because this is not a boost. This is a move action in disguise.
Right. Sure. Okay. That's a fair way to think of it. And it's a now strike boost, as you said, that ups the cost of it even more, the commitment of it even more. Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's our kit. We've got God, that's scary. That's some really, really like I'm still kind of like readjusting to the numbers that we're talking about here. And yeah, this is more like it. Um so any other, and I'd like to ask about like the normals and their boosts in just a second here, but any other observations about the kit itself and how to use any of these cards before we move on?
Um, I don't think so. I will note a common problem if you do try to play double lariat, excuse me,
Mhm.
uh, is that this movement may not be good for you. Um, so if you're playing this in a reasonable way, it means that you have so many resources you didn't need key charge, or you desperately needed exactly this shape right now.
Right.
And then the critical, for example, uh, what's a good example? This is a fine one, actually. This is probably the best example. This after movement compels you to take the corner.
Right. Because you're not going to back up. You would prefer staying at range 1 to getting in the corner.
Yeah. That's pretty awkward. Um, it has the amusing case of like, oh, if your opponent played focus, you can retreat too.
Right.
No, you can't. You're Zangief.
No.
Don't do that.
Right.
Like, no, you're allowed to, but you won't.
Right. And also, if you're in
Perfectly
exceed
reasonable.
mode, you stun the focus anyway.
True. Yes. Let's just stun focus. It makes things easier for us.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, so that after movement is a thing that you can use when it says close to, because of where the board state is. In some cases, like this one, if you are very sure you need exactly this because Ken just threw his, overpower axe kick at you, and you want to trade with it and also corner him.
Right.
But, these are all kind of, you need a doctor's note sort of thing, where like your default line is going to be, don't even think about the attack, don't worry about it.
Sure. Sure. Okay. Okay.
I think that's like the remaining note on the attacks that is worth actually noting.
Okay. Yep. Makes sense to me. So I feel like we've talked about a couple of these already in terms of how we're using our normals. Obviously, we have redundancy in our mix-up as a really important thing. We have the scariest EX assault I've ever seen in my life. Um, we have run. Uh,
Yeah.
ignore the
Yeah, I don't
rest
know
of
why
it.
that. Yeah.
You mentioned these as being particularly like we don't have redundancy for on curve attacks at ranges 3 and 4, so these are, and also as ways to move in.
Yes, and
Um,
also don't need these boosts at all.
okay, sure. So I guess I mean, so backstep I can understand why I wouldn't need that. I don't really need tech just because my stats are so high, and I have super armor. I was about to ask, yeah, and
Two
stun
things that say
immunity.
stun immunity on them. If you need stun immunity, you have it, and that is an effective answer to most boost wars.
Right.
You just go, okay, I guess you're gonna hit me with your +4 power and your +2 speed. That's fine. I'm hitting you back.
Right. I'm hitting you back. And if you
And I'm
are,
getting it.
yeah, if you are so gun shy about not getting me gauge that you're going to not hit me while wasting your boost. Hey, I just teched all your boosts at once.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. If they have enough speed and they throw something like a speed 8 or in some cases a speed 6 dive, and you go, wow, I didn't get any gauge from that. Well,
Right.
that's unfortunate, but they did just get rid of their own boosts.
Right.
So
Right. Okay. Okay. So don't need tech, definitely don't need backstep.
Yeah.
Um, backstep is a lost condition if I somehow accidentally play it. Um,
Yes.
so we can kind of put, I guess, these ones aside as being um pretty unidirectional, I guess, in terms
Yeah.
of our card facing. Um,
Yep.
tell me about light and fierce. What are we
Yeah.
using those for?
I mean, they're good boosts. They're just also good attacks, good fundamental things.
Okay.
It's totally reasonable to engage in the normal neutral play of Exceed with light and say, okay, now I'm threatening a fast dive, an assault that you can't cross out of, or a spike that you can't dive over, and if I initiate, you can't assault into.
Right.
That's totally fine. Engage in neutral. Neutral's fun. You enjoy the little of it that you get to play that doesn't look like grappler neutral. Um, and then Fierce, similar thing, except that I would be a little bit more careful with Fierce.
Mm.
Um, because rare is the case in which this +2 power is something that you actually needed for anything, because you have a lot of power at your disposal.
Right.
Um, this is basically, I need an early game sweep that stuns focus.
Okay.
And if you need that, why can't you just play Spinning Pile Driver?
Sure.
Like,
Sure.
you
Okay.
should probably keep this because you want fast sides of the mix-up,
Right.
especially because the fast sides of the mix-up stop losing the slow sides once you're in Exceed mode.
I feel like fierce is often a boost that you play when you are winning or in a position where you are fairly certain you're going to be able to confirm this power. With Zangief, I feel like you're going to spend most of the game not winning, so why would you use it? And then
Yeah,
you're going to spend part of the game winning, and you're winning so overwhelmingly that why do you need the fierce?
right.
Okay.
Yeah, it's often just not worth spending the turn, and if it is, then it might not be worth spending the option.
Right.
Like,
Sure.
why did I boost for +2 power when I could have struck you and it hit you, confirming whatever else I wanted? At the very least, a raw grasp initiating is on curve, and that means gauge.
Right.
So,
Right. And that
I'm
is worth more power later than the fierce.
yes.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, I'm you can play it if you find the cases where you need to, but it will be rare.
Right.
Um, you should expect generally to be holding this as for the use as its attack. If you need to break through a lot of guard, you have a button for that you can press.
Right.
But yeah, light is legit, and especially in mid ranges. If somebody's making it hard to catch up to them, then that is a good way to make a fast dive or a fast assault, uh, or mix it up with a fast spike.
Sure. Okay. Um, and then our remaining cards down here, I feel like I can kind of take a guess that this is a really great source of gauge if I need extra gauge. I
Yes.
probably don't, but also
Yeah, every little bit helps.
most things that I would really want to parry, I can probably just stun immune through.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a notable case of like parry and reading are fantastic boosts. They're
Right.
very, very powerful. They are um yeah, they've been wielded with tremendous effects in high level play for a very long time. Don't underestimate their strength. Also, shrug. You are a Russian bear wrestler. You just don't need them.
Right.
Um,
Right.
like you can chuck your opponent through a wall. You don't care what they play. There's no reason to reading.
Right.
Um, if they have a boost setup that you need to use reading to break through, which is it's often its use case. Okay, stun immunity, sure. Um, if you don't see any possible way to win the strike unless they play something specific, that I bring you back to stun immunity again. Like,
Right.
what happens to that? Because that's kind of a thing that just says I'm going to do something that interacts with you the strike, whether you
I'll
like
at
it or
least
not.
participate. Sure.
Yeah. Um, there is pretty much one case I can think of which can cause this to go wrong, which is the this into Bang Style Shuriken, which is a card in Bang Shishigame's kit that allows him to return a boost from play in the middle of a strike or to
Right.
tech in the middle of a strike.
Right.
Um, I think that's the only instance of that in the game. Not entirely sure, but
As far as I know, having done quite a few lessons at this point, that is Bang's lesson was the first time I came across that effect.
yeah, it is an extremely rare effect.
Right.
It's Bang, maybe Jeanette.
Hmm.
There's like a very few instances.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, generally speaking, you will be able to ignore the things that other people have to answer.
Sure.
You just sort of go, I'm gonna do my thing, and if I lose, I take a few points of damage.
Right.
And if not, then well,
just become bigger.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
Zangief canonically, Zangief can read. He's not like it's a harmful stereotype that he's an illiterate man. He's definitely not. I suppose like you would prefer reading to super armor if your life is really low, right? If you're gonna die, uh,
That is the case in which you can use that. Yeah, where you
yeah,
go, man, I have so little life that even this 2 armor is not going to be helpful to me, which is
right,
it's hard to get to
right.
that point, but it's possible.
And my other diffusal tool is no longer stun immunity, is not death immunity. I do need to just not get hit this strike. Let's lean on
Yes.
reading now.
Yeah. That is another case for light, by the way. It's usually not the one I run into. But that is as with everyone else in Exceed, it is, oh, if your life is too low to play this card,
Right.
then you can play this card.
Right. May I interest you in this boost instead?
Yeah.
Okay. And we already talked about Spike being a great mix-up option for the most obvious assault in the world.
Yep.
So use it for that. Any particular use for defend?
Sure. You're at range 1 and you want to play assault,
Okay. Yeah.
which is what everyone uses it for. It's just particularly good when you're Zangief.
Yep. Makes sense.
Also has a nice case set range where you can now play a dive with 1 armor, 3 guard, which will get you in against a lot of projectiles.
Almost everything. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. If you don't have Vanishing Flat, you can do that.
Right. Right. Okay. Okay. Sure. That makes sense. So some of my normal play is going to be like very Zangief inflected. Obviously, like I'm never ever playing cross, for example, and never playing backstep.
Yep.
Other parts of it are actually pretty standard Exceed stuff, just larger.
Yeah. On that note, and in that same note, your attitude toward wild swinging is going to be very much like any given Exceed character, where you go, okay, most of my kit works at what ranges? Fine, I can wild swing comfortably in those ranges, and you're okay with that. You are unusually good at range 1, but because of how Street Fighter the Season and Zangief in particular was designed with criticals, you are not somebody who can just go to range 1 and wild swing and call it good. You are not,
Right.
in fact, Taker or Potemkin, where you are just happy to do that all day.
Sure.
Because proper use of your character, proper use of your kit requires a resource investment that is much, much more dangerous on wild swings.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you whiff an attack and spent gauge on it, you're down a lot.
Yeah. So you're often happy to wild swing during strikes, offense or defense, if you're at range 1, but you should be pretty reluctant to critical, which means that you want to use your wild swings like somewhat carefully. You want to know where are my mix-up components that I care a lot about and don't want to waste.
Right.
Where are my things that will make me lose the game because I crossed out or I dove past and now the opponent has free reign to leave. Because wild swinging across is, it's not game losing. It's gonna feel that way though.
Okay.
So like I wild swing a lot as every character, but I certainly wild swing a lot as Zangief, less than as other grapplers though. I find it's often just fine for me to play relatively conservatively, play block from hands, play banishing flat from hands, play my boosts, because I have enough grappler movement. I have enough tools that I can engage in a lot of strikes in a way that's productive without risking wild swinging something that's going to tilt me off the table. And then when I'm through all of that, cool. Now we're in close range. Now I have had time to draw enough of my deck that I'm not at risk of not being out of any particular side of the mix-up, at least, or rather not being able to draw any side of the mix-up. Because something I've talked about with other grapplers is like, I go to range 1 and wild swing because my mix-up is online, and that's threatening, and that's a totally effective and efficient way to do that. With
Right.
Zangief, I would actually often rather play the mix-up from hands.
Right. So
Because from hand, I know it's what I want.
So you're hoping to get to range 1 with an amount of resources that will let you run your mix up, which I mean is going to involve some gauge, but also like a couple good cards to strike with in hand. But because of the way that Exceed works, like when you're not at range 1, you probably aren't. Are you either going to be striking with something that gets you into range 1 or you're going to be moving, right? And if you're
Yeah.
moving, you're drawing a card. And that's going to help fuel the turn when you finally can get in.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's be clear about one other thing on that note. You are incredibly dangerous at range 1, and therefore you should stay to range 1 as much as possible. That does not mean that you are not allowed to engage in other ranges.
Mm-hmm.
If you're at range 5, it's totally fine to pay 1 force to go to range 4, because you can't afford to pay 4 force, because you know your opponent is just going to run. Then you'll have 1 card, they'll still have 4 cards and they're at range 3, and you don't have a good way to follow up from there.
Right, right.
Like, what's important to you is that you don't let them get away, not that you're at range 1 at all times.
Sure. You don't have to be at range 1 very often when you're hitting this hard.
Yeah, no kidding.
Right. Okay. Okay. So and like this is I know the adage is always like grapplers hug the center. There's a lot of like Exceed boards are not infinite. They can't run away from you forever. And if you're in the middle of the board, there's a certain distance that they can get from you, and that's as far as they can go. And it's within dive range.
Mhm.
So I'm kind of looking to stay in this range, which is going to help my threat band with my normals and stuff, but it's also going to help my economy because I'm not running them down and seeding too many resources that I need for mix-ups later.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like it's if you're here, it's probably worth it to go to range 1. But if you're here, it is probably worth it to go to range 3.
Sure. Sure.
You like to be in a range where a lot of stuff's online, and at range 3 in particular, banishing flat is just okay. We're gonna be at range 1 no matter what.
Right.
Yeah, no matter what asterisk.
If you strike into me here, you've either dived over me and now we're at range 1 and I can play, or you did something else. I'll get to range 1 probably, and that's like giving me advantage because I did it on your turn.
Yeah, I mean, the most common case in my experience is that the opponent plays an assault,
right?
So that they end up at range 1 with advantage, so that then they can leave range 1.
You can leave immediately, sure.
Like that is what how the opponent goes to range 1 is when they plan to leave it.
Right. That makes sense. Okay, sure. So we're kind of now talking about economy a little bit. It sounds like my gauge is more precious than my life. I'm guarding it as closely as I can until I've reached this critical mass, and then I'm looking to hover around 1 or 2. Preferably 2, so I have some room to whiff or room to throw a mix up that I'm not sure about sometimes. Any other like important economic notes that we haven't already covered, or is it really just sort of like general grappler things?
Yeah, I mean, this was the big one. People, right. and as a note on counterplay, ahead of it, the ultras are the parry targets. Like,
okay.
Because the resource edge of these two is massively significant. You can tech this one, you can parry this one, and you probably should. If you don't have parry in your deck, you do not have a way to stop him from doing this, and that's a bad time for you because he is going to play it for a lot of value.
Okay. So this is sort of like a major economy fixer for me.
Yeah.
That notably doesn't help my gauge.
He's going to pay half his hand out to get in.
Right.
You're going to be like, okay, he doesn't have that many cards in hand. I guess I'm fine. And then he's going to reload.
Right. So I guess because I have this canned reload, because I have so much movement on my strikes, and I'm happy to pay the move action when I need to. It's less that I'm going to run out of force, and much more likely that I'm going to run out of options. So I need to be careful with what I'm spending so that I have mix-ups to throw.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. This is why the things you have that are redundant are important to understand in how they are redundant. So you need to be aware that nothing really matches spinning pile driver, but if you were down both and you needed to do something specific, you might still be able to.
Right.
But there is really no substitute for it. There are substitutes for these, but if you drop all of your speed 2 cards, well, okay, that's a speed 2 card, I guess. But if you drop all of your flying power bombs and sweeps, there is not a thing that is going to cover the side of that mix up, and you should be justifiably afraid of your opponent playing fast cards. And you don't want to be in that situation. You want to make it sure that it's not safe for them to play anything in particular because you have things that destroy it.
Okay. So spend 1 of everything but not 2 of everything, or spend 2 of everything but not 4 of everything for some of your important mix-up cards. You got it. Keep things alive as long as you can to be able to threaten when you finally do get in.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and this trifecta where the suplex could be a grasp is really, really important, I think.
Right. Okay. Sure. That makes sense to me. So it sounds like that's economy, that's normals, that's specials, that's ultras, that's exceed mode, that's Zangief. Shall we talk counterplay?
Yeah. So I've referenced it a couple of times. These are your worst enemy.
Okay.
Playing against Zangief, this one too, but you can't really do that much about it. Getting super armor out of play is almost certainly the right thing to do no matter what else is happening on the board.
Okay.
Um, Figuring out how to get out of play in a way that is least damaging to you is a challenge I leave to your own resources. Generally speaking, if he left it, if Zangief made it so that it was possible for you to be just playing across and leaving, you probably should. Be careful doing that because, for example, if you empty cross from this range and he plays dive, uh, he's at range 3, you're in the corner. Once he gets up to you, you can't run out because you just played your cross.
Right. That was a pretty good use of super armor that he just whiffed.
Yeah. Adjust that accordingly for your normals. Not everyone has the same normal movement boosts. You
Right.
care an awful lot about how you get out of this situation.
Okay.
If the answer is I pay 4 force, uh, please find better answers.
Right. So if you're an Under Knight character, you're looking at respect and not air dash, for example. If you're a Guilty Gear character, you're looking at dash. If you're a earlier
Any
Exceed
other
character,
character
you're
you're
looking at
looking at?
run.
Yeah. Yeah. And so like playing cross as an attack certainly has its uses because it lets you retreat away from him, and that is obviously fantastic. And he's not good at catching it without an EX assault. Like, well, sorry, if you're not at range 1. If you're at range 1, he can totally just destroy it.
Sure.
But it does cover flying powerbomb, it does cover sweep, it does cover this. And at range 2, it just beats everything he wants to do, and that's great. Just be careful that you don't use it to back yourself, up against the wall. And now you don't have any tools to get out of the corner, so that when he comes in, you can't leave.
Right. He's totally fine to lose strikes so that he can win them really hard later, and you're helping facilitate that by being cornered.
Yeah. So planning something out of the corner is very important. Pay for force is an acceptable way, but you better still have a hand after that because, if you do that sort of thing, then now he can play an assault, gain advantage, and you have no options left.
Right.
Like it is particularly dangerous. So use your movement tools effectively, but if I just assume normals, you often need run just to get out of the corner. Don't be afraid of participating in his mix-ups at any range that isn't 1, because those are the ones you have to win. Right? So in that case where you ran out and now he strikes at range 3 and you go, "Oh, this is the assault spike mix-up with a touch of dive for flavor." Like if you win that mix-up, you can win it meaningfully. Sweep into his assault might actually not win the mix-up, depends on if he's in exceed mode yet. If you had any other speed 6s on hands, a second cross, or perhaps most notably your own EX assaults to come in and destroy it, and then you have your own turn to get out of range 1 again, like that's great. Using reversals or similar to ensure that he can't secure gauge early or confirm payouts late are like that's the chief value of speed. Because very often he just doesn't care if you hit him first, and he's actually often happy if you hit him first.
Right.
So engaging in the mix-ups not at range 1 is where that's going to be most relevant, at least in my experience.
And like that's where speed is most important typically anyway.
Yes. Okay. It's just that like you don't want to play a dive here, but you might want to play an assault.
Right.
But yeah, and if he plays an assault and you play a sweep, at least you're up 2 life, though that might change.
Right.
Yeah, be wary. If you play an assault and he plays an assault or a dive or a vanishing flat, okay, now you're up 4 life. You will need to you'll need to chip at him pretty steadily. You need to take a lot of little bites. Because although in Exceed everyone has 30 life, in a lot of characters have effectively more than 30 life because they have extra armor, or they simply don't mind shrugging off small hits because they deal big hits. So it's going to feel like they are more resilient. And Zangief is one of those. Zangief will be losing numerically for most of the game, almost every game he plays. Do not let this fool you. His goal is to exceed, and once he exceeds, you are like within lethal as long as you have, I don't know, taken any damage yet. Like I guess he can't easily do 29 and 3 strikes, but
it's not that far off.
Yeah, so I think I actually did a solid like 24 or 25 earlier in 3 strikes. He can do that kind of thing, and it's not hard for him. This is how he's going to close the game. That doesn't mean that he's won. When he exceeds, and he drags you in, as he will, you can still participate. You can still win mix-ups. The price for losing them is now much, much higher. But if you can ever strip his last gauge, and with careful resource management and good play, depending on the character, well, depending on the player, but you may well be able to make it where he has to take some kind of risk, or else he's going to just get very low rewards. And if he lost, if he was down 15 life throughout the game, then he doesn't really want to be trading his grasp into your sweep and his 7 power into your focus.
Right.
Because he will still die first if he's doing that. That's a problem for him. He needs to actually make some wins or make some very big numbers happen. And those are mix-ups you can win, right? Like, you can, in fact, dive over this. You might be able to cross out if you still have a cross. And if you initiate, you can make things harder for him, although it is very, very dangerous. Just keep watching his life whittle away. If Zangief exceeds with, like, more than 20 life, so next game, you will probably have a much better time. But
you'll have a better game plan, and it's going to involve getting Zangief to lower life.
Yeah. Like, you might not have had a choice if realistically he did 2 of these and then 2 blocks, then maybe he just did that as fast as possible. If that is the case, what you need to lean on is the fact that he hasn't drawn through his deck, which means he doesn't actually have much control over which tools he has available to him. And a lot of his tools are pretty mediocre unless he's using them in exactly the way he wants.
Right.
Doubly true early and at range, where he goes, I have this awesome set of range 1 tools, but we're at range 3, where all I really want to do is play like Assault or Banishing Flat.
Right.
And if he doesn't have either of those, if he has this hand stuffed with awesome range 1 options, but he's at range 3, he's probably going to, shed a tier and spend 2 of them to go to range 1. That's time you can spend setting up whatever the heck your character is doing.
Okay.
See, anything else of note?
And I mean, what your character is doing, as we mentioned, it's a law of exceed. You probably can't fight him at range 1 no matter what. But you do have a character. You have other things that you can do that he probably can't do. So do those things.
Yes. And yeah, you may sometimes have to initiate at range 1. Be okay with that. Right. Be aware of that probably nothing you play is unbeatable by him at range 1. He always has something that will beat it.
Sure.
And, act accordingly. But there are times where, in order to make it so that he can't just beat you automatically on his turn, you may need to initiate. You may need to say, okay, me initiating now is what makes it so he doesn't checkmate me with, EX Assault at range 1. Because if I initiate, he has to call whether it's Grasp. And if I respond, this destroys Grasp. Oh, on that note, please don't spend your second Grasp early. You will lose the game. If you don't have redundant speed 7s in your specials and ultras kit, it's really, really important that you have something that is faster than this.
Yeah.
If you ever run out of like things that are speed 6 or higher, and you probably are using one of them for movement, you have lost. Like, he will now kill you because he can play critical assaults, atomic suplex, critical pile driver, and you will be helpless. So mind your discards just as much as he's minding his, if not more.
Sure, yeah, no, definitely. And because that's the one you can control directly. Like, don't spend things that you can't afford to lose.
Yeah. And having something fast at range 1 is a really important part of that.
Okay. Yep, that makes sense to me. That sounds like a high wire act, D. That sounds like a really stressful game of Exceed. At least, hopefully, it'll be short.
I mean, honestly, good games against Zangief are often long because it means that it took him a long time
to kill you.
Get in.
Sure.
Yeah. Because Zangief can lose. Like I said, Zangief will usually be losing the entire game. Then he finishes accomplishing what he was trying to do. And now you're playing Zangief's game.
Right.
And it is going to be 3 strikes. And you might be able to deal enough to finish him off if you did well enough during the first part of the game.
Right. Okay.
But once it has shifted from the Exceed that you were playing that was Grappler Hell into Zangief has exceeded, time is running out, you need to kill him right now or you are dead.
Right.
Like, that's... Yeah.
Okay. No, that makes sense. As terrifying as it may be, that is the challenge in front of us as Zangief's opponent. So that's the counterplay, such as it is. The final thing that we usually talk about on these lessons is other characters who play a little bit like Zangief if you're a fan of what he does, and we've already talked about a couple of them. I think we even we've got his children here.
Yes. the siblings, the children, they were over here. I left them here.
Yep.
Yes. So Potemkin and Tager are the closest analogs. Potemkin doesn't get speed of any sort, really, anywhere ever in his kit. He's not fast.
Right.
But he has an absurd amount of effective life. And he is pretty good at making the opponent question all of their life decisions because they decided to be at range 1. And he is, much like Zangief, fundamentally built on mix-ups, although it is a bit harder for him to make them ironclad, whereas
Right.
Zangief does have, 187 and that sort of thing.
Right.
Yeah, reasonable things. Tager also has an absurd amount of effective life. These are both very, very armor-heavy characters. Tager, as I previously mentioned, is the grappler you can't get away from generally. Like, it's a lot harder to stay out of his reach. He is a bit less rewarding. He does not have spinning pile driver. He only has 7 damage or 5 damage ignoring armor. He doesn't get to stun focus unless he's succeeded. But lots of boosts, generally better neutral, at least in my opinion. Then, well, it depends on whether jump in counts as neutral. That covers a multi.
That's a fair point. Yeah. And I mean,
Yeah.
if you look at Zangief and you see these ultras here, and you really wish that you could sometimes play a big splashy attack to end your game, may I introduce you to Tager, who has some ultras.
Oh yes. Tager has some command grab ultras. Let me just pull out the card that you looked at and you wanted to play, but now you'll actually play it.
Right.
And if that sounds appealing, then that's a good start. Potemkin also has flashy ultras. He is more likely to use his ultras for utility.
Right.
Than Tager.
Gigantic is an ultra of all time. I love that card.
It is an amazing card, and it is not impressive at all with regard to damage. It is not this kind of flashy nonsense. It often will win you the game, but it does not look like this.
Definitely.
If you want a thing that looks like this, Tager's your man.
Yep.
See, there are a handful of other grapplers that emphasize different things. I think these are the two standouts by far. Just the idea of I am going to fight really hard and resources are really rough, but in my advantage states, I am completely uncontested. We actually referenced this character because of playtesting earlier.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Nirvana is a grappler.
Right.
Carl isn't, but Nirvana is. And if they have you in their clutches, then they certainly have. Have we done a Carl lesson? I don't remember. I think we have.
I had a Carl lesson with Chica quite a while ago. So I know a decent amount about how Carl works.
Yeah, like you've got your fast, you've got your 7 power speed 5 attack, you've got your ignore guard attack. Like you've got tools. And it's also an immense amount of work and incredibly difficult resource management. On the vein of Tager, more so than Zangief. Zangief has key charge, super armor, and jump in, which, as I said, covers multitude of sins. But yes, Carl and Tager, if you like working really hard and struggling through grappler hell and then murdering the opponent because their stats cannot compare to yours.
Right.
If you prefer the ease of Zangief and the fact that you can kind of just be doing your thing and it will work, and the opponent may have to it might be the opponent's job to figure out what's happening in the game because you're just hitting the buttons that are good.
Right.
I would like to recommend Marathi.
Oh, excellent call.
Yeah,
this one I haven't had a lesson on, but I do know how to play Auto Rathi, and I understand that's basically the same thing.
Infamously, the character who has had the most successful automation.
Yep.
But and with the running joke that his deck is made of sweeps. So sweep is a good card. Just play a lot of sweeps. That's Marathi. You're done.
Okay.
That's the Marathi lesson. 2 for 1 today. All right. Let's see. There are a lot of grapplers and pseudo grapplers, but yeah, the defining characteristic of Zangief is he is king of his favorite range. Nobody argues with him about that.
Right.
He is still fundamentally mix-up oriented. But there is a resource game that goes along with that. I guess I'll pull out my favorite grappler. Her favorite range is not 1. But nobody's going to argue too much with her about range 2.
Right.
Um, and uh, she has one resource shortcut. Her neutral is much worse than probably any of these characters, honestly. Um, but transformations make that a little bit more interesting. She's also my favorite character, so I'm just sort of obligated to chill for her.
Well,
And any
she's the best character
opportunity.
in the game.
Yeah, best character in the game,
Yeah,
hands down.
of course.
Uh, in my thoroughly biased opinion. Um, but yeah, she is. I mean, if you saw the card, right, 276 is big numbers, and if you didn't think they were big enough, here's 2 to 4
Right.
10.
Here's bigger
Uh,
numbers.
yeah, so here's my assortment of grapplers. If you like, depending on what you like about Zangief and how. If you want someone who wrestles bears, I will have to investigate the lore of everyone else in the game. I'm not sure about that.
Right.
But there's probably someone.
I think
Big
so.
game.
And I mean, and also, I mean, like the number of times that we've talked about things like grappler movement um, on characters who don't really have, they're not quite as huge as these guys. Some of the concepts still apply. If you're looking for, I mean, like Vega is not a grappler,
Nope.
but has a similarly like precarious resource game to a grappler and struggles through neutral for a really long time in order to hit you for some absolutely insane payouts. If that's what you're looking for, there's a whole bunch of characters like that in Exceed.
Yep.
Um, so take a look. Basically, like look for anybody with big red power numbers, and you're probably partway there.
Yeah. Let me make one additional note here that has just occurred to me. I think I may have given the impression, uh, not entirely unintentionally, that playing Zangief is easy,
Sure.
because I think his line is relatively straightforward. I kind of do the same things, and they pretty much always get me what I want because it's really, really hard to make them not do that. You
Right.
can't turn off key charge. You practically can't prevent super armor. Um, if you want to know how grapplers work, or want to get a feel on grapplers, or want to try a grappler in Exceed for the first time, Zangief is a perfectly fine option. If you then find that he's not working for you, he doesn't feel particularly great to play, things aren't working very well, um, depending on your personality as a player, play Exceed for fun. Remember, do what you enjoy.
Definitely.
Um, but I actually I should say, found the process of making Zangief's kit work for me kind of interesting, because when I first played him, he didn't really do anything that I wanted him to do. It was then going, oh, what is he actually doing? And realizing that fundamentally, what Zangief wants to do is have the cards that are his mix up, the cards that are his boosts, not really mix the two, and then play a very short late game. Basically, my point is, if you want to get a handle on a grappler, he is the iconic, the archetypal range 1 grappler in Exceed.
Right.
And his neutral plays like that. If you cannot play him well, if you struggle with him, that means that the skills that you will need to develop are grappler skills, like suffering through grappler hell in neutral, realizing that being behind most of the game does not mean that you have lost, and knowing when to make your mix-ups counts, and above all, what resources you are getting rid of, when and how. Like, this is a very involved and interesting resource management game that is part of the very involved and interesting resource management game that is Exceed. And now when you win it, you get to deal 8 damage. So, yeah, I think he's a solid pick, not necessarily because he's easy, but because he's straightforward. It's just he can be straightforwardly challenging. You still need to do these things right, or you'll end up feeling like you could never get to range 1, and you died without ever being able to do anything cool to your opponent.
I feel like grapplers in general do a very good job of like revealing your resource management mistakes to you. It's difficult to obviously like losing a game can be a learning experience. It's a great way to sort of identify what you need to do better in the future. It's frequently I find pretty easy to say like I really shouldn't have spent that card.
Yep.
In Zangief, where you're like compare that to I had a lesson about Rachel recently, and Rose made the point that because you're making so many decisions as Rachel, you can often identify your mistakes pretty easily. But with Zangief, all of your decisions are like unidirectional. So they're always going toward the same goal. And if you can determine like this didn't advance me towards my obvious goal enough, that was a mistake. That's like a useful skill to develop.
Yeah, and you can often take a look back, like step back, a little bit from the end of the game and go, man, it seemed like I should have been in a good position and I wasn't. Why didn't that work?
Right.
Oh, the answer is I had nothing left that beat dive.
Mm,
The answer is I had nothing left that beat cross. Like I got here and then I lost, and the reason is because I didn't keep this side of this mix up live.
right.
You know, like you will often be able to find those answers to those questions.
Right. So Zangief is like the gateway drug to a lot of these other grapplers. But what you're describing here, like it's super possible to not be playing a grappler and get in a position where you just lose to dive and now you've lost the game because of it. So
Yeah,
this can teach you a fundamental exceed skill, just louder and with bigger numbers.
yeah. I mean, in-game management and setting up effective in games and closing games is one of the tougher plateaus of exceed skill. Something a
Yeah.
lot of players have talked about over time is reaching that point of, man, I feel like I'm doing great for all the game, like the whole game, and then I can't close it out. I
Right.
lose at the end, and it's usually because of things like this. Um, Louder and with bigger numbers is a great way to describe it.
Right.
Like
Right.
it's
And
it's usually a
because
lot
it's
more
louder
obvious
and with
which
bigger
thing you
numbers,
needed.
it will speak more loudly to you. You'll be able to hear it more clearly that this was the mistake you made.
Yep.
Well, awesome. Um, D, this was last minute. I really, really appreciate you jumping on so quickly to cover Zangief with me. I learned a lot as always.
Pleasure.
Uh, had a great time talking to you. Um, thank you, Zangief. Um, Folks at home, I hope you learned something too. I hope you are excited to try out Zangief. He sounds like a lot of fun. Um, I will see you all for the next one. Goodbye,
Yep.
everybody.
Remember to drink water. It's good for you. Stay hydrated.
Please do. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.